Welcome everyone for the Chrono Lynx at Fort Dragonia round robin match 4. Today we have AzraelHobbes versus EzioPony. And for commentating we have Corporate Image, Andy W3321, and PH112358. And then if the runners are ready, we'll do the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Good luck, runners.
And they're off.
Let's go.
All right, good luck, guys. Ooh, Vaughn. So your starting character has no real impact on the game other than maybe saving a few frames if their name only has a few characters to it. But most runners tend to have like some superstitions attached to a few of the characters that you can get here.
Yeah, definitely. Poshul is one of my good starts. I usually have pretty good RNG with Poshul. Alright, Hobbs doing a dodge around the Cybot and Bats. Very nice. So we're at the dream sequence. The only thing that can really affect our time here is getting an encounter, which every encounter in this game will cost about 20 seconds of time, assuming that the character can run away immediately, which is most of the time.
Yeah, and if you want to talk a little bit about that, the battle system, enemy starts can be randomized, and that's going to be something that we'll actually see play, in some cases, a lot throughout the course of this run.
Yeah. Let's see what happens here. Oh. So you see Hobbs going under the bridge. When a bat starts to approach you, if it's really close, you can hide under any of the bridges and it cannot get you because it's on a different level. And it's good to wait the bat out rather than take the 20-second time loss. But they both made it to the pad.
Yep, good start. Yeah, the hitboxes also for the bats are misleading. So you have to kind of be on the lower part of the bridge to get the dodge.
It's like it's kind of like their shadow, right?
Yeah, a lot of enemies that fly, it's best to just use their shadow.
Right. Which makes it inconvenient because you can't see the shadow.
Right. Yeah, especially for the bats, but yeah, later on in the game, a lot of the enemies can fly. It's best to use the shadow.
Yeah, especially in any percent. I look at the fish when we have to go to that spot. The fish's shadow are great indicators of where their hitboxes actually are. But anyway, they made it to the cutscene. We're about to see this particular flash forward a few times in the run. It's kind of like an indicator for the plot, you know, maybe.
Does this happen? Will it happen?
I don't know.
I'm sure it won't matter.
Yeah, I'm sure that's just catch up.
Totally. So while we're going into this cutscene, really quick to set the stage a little bit. So we have right now Hobbs is currently 1-1 in his bracket. Ezio is 0-1. So this is a really important match for the two of them to kind of set into the last couple of rounds, because the top two runners in each bracket will advance to kind of like a final four. Our co-commentator Corporate Image here is pretty much already locked in to the next round. Congratulations, sir. So we're looking to see who will be joining him. And Hobbs currently, both of them actually still have a chance to get there. So this is a key match for how that will go.
And another reason for this tournament is to help lead up to the Chrono Trilogy Relay race that we'll be putting on later this year.
Yeah, really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, a lot of people enjoyed it last year, and they wish they would have known about it earlier. So, kind of create a buzz and hype. Decided to put on this tournament.
Yeah, good call. It's great.
I'll say, so story-wise, Serge just woke up from a dream. He left his home, and he's going to see his girlfriend, Lena, who is lecturing him about being late. She has a responsibility to watch over these kids who are playing in the ocean while a fisherman is dangling his fishing line out there, which is not dangerous at all, by the way. But after this, Lena's going to request Serge to pick up Komodo scales. We're going to need 3 of them to progress the plot. And as we go to the next area, we're going to try to look for some particular drops. If either one of you want to pick up what kind of drops we need as we get there.
Yeah, so we'll be looking for 1 feather, at least 1 fang, and then ideally 2 humors. And the reason that we have to do that is the weapons crafting system in this game requires both money and materials. And so to make our allotment of weapons that we like to use for the first hour or so, we look to have that sort of that grouping. You can get away with having only 1 humor because there will be an opportunity to do something called a disassemble, which will actually delete basically one of your weapons in exchange for the materials that the weapon costs to make. So you could get a fang that way. There will be an opportunity for us to potentially get a humor, but all of these are reliant on these drops. We're looking for common drops for the most part, which are 90% likely to happen, except the feather, which is 10%, but there is a backup for that one.
On Hobbes' screen, he's got 2 Komodo pups, and EzioPony's screen, 2 Komodo pups. This is the fastest type of encounter, but the only potential reward, besides time, is the feather. Every Komodo pup has about a 10% chance to drop that feather. And as PH was mentioning, we do have backups just in case we don't get the drops. There's a very convenient feather on the way out, about 10 minutes from now.
Really rough start to the fight for Hobbes there. He missed 3 straight times. So you can see that there are percentages next to the level 1, level 2, and level 3 attacks. Those are honest percentages. The likelihood, oh wow, we got 2 feathers.
No.
Double feather.
So that was a lot of misses, offset by the fact that he then got double feather. Go figure.
EzioPony went for trying to skip the beach bump fight, but he was a little too close, so he hit the unfortunate pixel. But this is fine. This is a double beach bum encounter, which is the ideal type of beach bum encounter to get. This will give him a chance at 2 humor drops, which is Hobbes also.
Okay.
Man, they're mirroring each other today.
Sorry. Yeah, you can see that Ezio is going for 2s, a safer play than going for the 3s.
Yeah, so the way that the system works in Chrono Cross is that each level has a decreasing likelihood to hit, but has an increased amount of damage output. They both got 2 humors, which is great. So they're both good on that. As the damage output goes up, it actually goes up faster than the amount of stamina that you lose, right? So in other words, doing 2 level 3 attacks does more total damage than 3 level 2 attacks. So it's riskier, right? So it's always a trade-off, and that's something that all Chrono Cross runners kind of have to play off as they go through the game.
So Hobbes got another double Komodo pup fight, which so did EzioPony. Wow. But for Hobbes, this is really good because he has pretty much everything he needs. The boss fight coming up has a 90% chance to drop that fang that we mentioned that we need. EzioPony still has not gotten the feather drop yet, but he has a few more opportunities for it. Yeah, they're pretty close, which is interesting.
Yeah. Very close. And actually, so Garden of Eden mentioned something in the chat that's an interesting point. So Hobbes is actually getting a little bit more on these kind of small HP increases. We'll see this throughout the entire run. All stat gains are random. And in between the boss fights, so the boss fights will be where we get most of our stat ups. In between the boss fights, you'll get these small increases, usually for health. Every once in a while for other stats that we're not going to go into because it's not really going to work for this, for the Lynx percent. And Hobbes got more health, so he'll have a higher HP coming out of this fight than Ezio will.
So this is the third and final Komodo pup fight. Every Komodo pup had some sort of challenge attached to it. The first one was to block the cave and corner it. The second one was to get the drop on top of it. And the third one is to chase it around. But this fight will always be 2 Komodo pups, and then once you defeat them, it will summon the mother Komodo dragon. So you see Hobbes, I think he got some misses though. Yep. So ideally you want to hit a 2-2-2 or a 3-3, either one, and then do a fireball +2. It looks like the Mama Komodo's been dodgy for both runners today. So it's going to have to extra run up for EzioPony, but good job for Hobbes finishing off the Komodo pup. Let's see if gets the Fang drop. Yeah, okay, good. No strength, but a Fang.
Ooh, Ezio missed a 9. So you can see how Chrono Cross can be mean. Ezio's hit rate there was 92% to do something that would have finished the fight, and he missed. That will happen in this game because we have so many chances. And 90% is going to happen 9 out of 10 times, and now 1 out of 10. Chrono Cross loves to throw at you at the worst possible time.
Absolutely. Oh, nice. Ooh. Okay. So Ezio got a strength and a feather there.
Feather, strength, Fang. It's a pretty good Mama Komodo fight outcome.
Yeah, if you don't get a feather, it's just 15 seconds to get the backup one. Not a big deal, but certainly nice to get it.
Yeah, so they're both basically done with the material requirements that they would need to get to the next section, so they won't be at risk. So it is possible if you're missing stuff. There are the feather backup Andy talked about. For the Fang or the Humor, we need to get the common drop from our next boss fight. And again, it's 90% likely, but you do have that risk that it doesn't happen, which can then put you in a situation where you have to either take another fight to get the material you need, or to choose to go without one of the weapons that we like to create, the Iron Dagger. So instead you can go without it, get an Ivory Dagger, use Kid's existing Ivory Dagger. That's the next character we'll get. And that's your other choice, but it's slower in the rest of the run, the rest of the next hour, I would say. So having everything here for both runners is really nice that they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, speaking of the next hour, as PH was mentioning about the upgrades, when we do our weapon upgrades, especially for both Serge and Kid, it will allow the characters to hit more easily. So at the first hour of the game, we're kind of at our worst hit percentage for the speed run. There's a lot of variance and luck in terms of what's hitting and what's not. But at a certain point, we gain access to an element that will allow us to hit about 99% of the time. There's still that 1% chance that we miss, but at the very least, it's a small comfort for the rest of the run.
And then another topic I would like to mention that if you're familiar with this game, you might know that you can recruit a character, Posho, at this point. It's actually slower to get her. Enemies, when you just have Serge alone, the enemies have half health, so it's just better for him to take on the cave by himself. So spend time recruiting Posho.
Yeah, for casual players, you might find it interesting that Serge is just able to go through this entire section by himself with very little trouble. Thankfully for the run, we have a good understanding of the enemies, their health values, and kind of what we need to do as runners to either play it safe or to take risks. But yeah, as Andy mentioned, you could recruit Poshul earlier and bring them there, but don't have to.
And to that end about the health, there's an interesting mechanic this game has where when you are by yourself, your enemy's health is halved and your hit rate doesn't decline unless you get hit or switch to a new enemy. So it's a weird mechanic because normally that actually would happen when you have more than one character. But the game basically has a couple of things that give you a better chance to get through when you're by yourself.
All right, so we see Hobbes has a bit of a lead over EzioPony, but not much. Hobbes is going to go into Lizard Rock and just hold down right. If you look as he runs past the fish in the center of the map, there's an island with a treasure chest on it. That's where the feather would be if they didn't get the drop. And that's where Andy mentioned that about a 15, 16-second time investment to go pick it up. They didn't get it. But because they did, they could just go, and it's much nicer.
And yeah, plot-wise, we start off in Homeworld, and now we're in another world. And I always like how the game kind of showed you these little differences, discrepancies with what's going on to kind of make you question some things. But for our purposes, we'll be in another world for the rest of this category.
I like Corporate Image's favorite fisherman there. His hat is now black instead of kind of a nice tan. You know, still hanging out there on the edge, irresponsibly fishing near children. So still questionable decision making otherwise.
Oh, wow, I never noticed that one.
It took me a while. I forget how I spotted it, but I was just like, wait a sec. This looks, for some reason, there's something slightly different here. Oh, that's what it is. And they have a ton of fun little components like that the game does to kind of give you that hint that Andy was talking about, that it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, I think the Homeworld fisherman is kind of a Debbie Downer. He talks about how the ocean is a dangerous place that eventually will claim your life. This guy, however, is like, Mother Ocean, man, is great. So he's a lot more positive, although they're equally sleepy.
Yeah, it's at its core, basically, we're playing It's a Wonderful Life, the Chrono version is really what this
Chrono
comes down to.
edition.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
So yeah, after talking to Lena, she's like, I don't know you, like, the boy Serge died, and she ends up suggesting that we should check out his grave, so that's what our runners are going to do.
So we see Hobbes made it to the grave, at least on our time, at 16:22. For speedrunners, a good time is like sub 16:30 if you can get there in time. Sometimes our luck isn't as great, but you take what you get. But as he made his way forward, there were other beach bums walking around the big blue-looking fish man, I guess. And if they did not get the humor drops that they needed, they would fight the encounters here. And potentially, sometimes beach bums just don't drop what you want. So if you had to fight the second one, you could potentially get a strength up early from the mechanics we call a mini star, which we can go into later because it's not very important for this run. For any percent, it's a little bit more worth mentioning. But Hobbes is encountering Salt, Pepper, and Karsh. They've been sent here, I think, by Lynx to find Serge and bring him in. But our rescuer has appeared. She is a standing long jump champion. Just jump without any running start for 25 feet. It's impressive.
Yeah, and I love, it's one of those kind of like almost like an anime style trope, though. In the conversation, to your point, it's like it's Lynx we think, but when Karsh references it, it's like just like he said we would. You know, they won't say who it actually is.
Yeah.
So Hobbes about to get into the fight here, and we're going to see him do something interesting to begin this fight. He's not actually going to attack; he's going to defend. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, these tutorial fights, their HP is locked in at 30k until they give their little spiel. And for this fight, it's Salt's. His turn needs to come up, and he'll give the dialogue. And after this, their HP unlocks, and it goes back to their normal values.
Yeah, the runners are going to be looking at Kit's damage from her melee attack and from her magma bomb attack. So on Hobbs' screen, I saw she did 6 damage, so she's at a +1 to strength. And if this magma bomb hits Salt and Pepper for 19 or 20 damage, her magic's at a +1. It's not. So depending on those damage numbers will determine what Serge is going to do to take out Salt here. Very nice on Hobbs' screen, you got it. But if you get misses in this fight, you know, all the strategy gets thrown out the window. You just have to adapt as best you can. Which is one of the fun parts about this speedrun.
And if what Corporate just said kind of intimidated you from potentially learning this, don't worry. You actually don't have to damage count to start speedrunning or even get a good time, but it's just something that can put you over the edge once you've put in a great many hours into this game.
Absolutely. It's no requirement. You could just blindly hit 222 or 33 for most of the opening of this game, and you'll be just fine for the most part.
So it looks like both Hobbes and Ezio having a little bit of difficulty through their fights with some not great misses. We saw Hobbes was able to get down Salt. Ezio missed a little bit, but then on Hobbes' side, he had a little bit of difficulty getting down Pepper.
All right, if Hobbes connects. All right, there he goes. Yeah. Karsh is really close to getting knocked out. Decent fight for Hobbes. It's like it's almost a sub 20, which is good. Let's see what he got. +1 strength, +1 standard drops. So PH brought up the crafting system earlier, and one of the items that we would normally need is a ivory vest, because we would disassemble another piece of equipment later for a humor drop. But because both of these runners got double humor drops, they don't really need that. So Ezio is struggling to hit, unfortunately. Looks like the Karsh will go down on this round for Ezio. Oop.
The dodgy boy. Let him go.
One more hit. Oh.
Wow. Actually,
very close. I think he's like 1 or 2 HP.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
Oh,
yeah, that's how fights can go in this game, unfortunately.
Yeah, so, and Corporate mentioned it, so Hobbes was, as you run the game, you kind of like learn certain time targets depending on what you're looking for. So Hobbes was kind of close to one of those time targets, but now he has the scariest moment in the run. And that is talking to Kid. Very spooky.
Gotta say no. Dot, and all that.
If you say yes to Kid, the run is dead.
Yeah.
3 times you gotta say no.
Chrono Cross, unlike some RPGs that give you the illusion of choice, Chrono Cross actually does have diverging paths depending on what choices you make in the game. And this opening path right here, you could accept Kid in your party, you'd wake up the next day and move on. But by refusing Kid, we're going to get access to Lena. She will be recruited into our party. And Lena plays a very important role in the speedrun, both for this category and for any percent. So that is why we refuse Kid. But Kid doesn't really take the hint. She's going to keep offering her services, and eventually we can't really say no. I mean, you can, but she's going to help us out in the next big section of the game.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to go through the dialogue with Kid here. But yeah, as mentioned, Lena is a powerful blue innate that we need for later on. As an added bonus, we'll get Posho the dog.
Yay.
Yeah, and actually, that's a good point to talk, I think, for a second about the idea of innate colors. So in Chrono Cross, there are 6 innate color types, right? So, and the interesting thing about them is that they have a couple of different impacts, one of which is the certain types of elements that we'll get you can only use for your same innate. And also, you'll do more or less damage based on your innate color against enemies of other innate types or the same. So, for example, each innate has a opposing color as well: black and white, red and blue, yellow and green. So, if you have someone like Lena, who is a blue innate, she gets a really, really good blue only spell in a little bit here. And also, we will be doing a lot of stuff to try and get enemies set up so that they'll take extra damage from that by making them red. We'll explain that a little bit at the time, but you'll see, actually, this next fight that Hobbes is going to go into, we'll see the idea of a turn element come into play.
Yeah, there are intricacies of the battle system that, including myself, many casual players had just never heard of or even like learned about. But if you do take the time, I think most people who play this game will become fascinated with the battle system, because it's like a puzzle. Figuring out every encounter could be like figuring out a puzzle, and how to use your innate colors, how to deal with the enemy colors, how to utilize the field effects and buffs and all sorts of things. This category is a very good introduction to that for the speedrun, because after Lynx 2, or after Fort Dragonia, we end up making great use of that. But for this category, just get a taste of it.
Yeah, I think both Corp just here and Andy have spoken to it, and I'll second and third it. That is a really accessible speed run and very, very, very learnable. And this is a very, very manageable category type. I mean, it's, you know, you'll see both of our runners here will finish in a little over 2 hours. It's really, really fun because you get some interesting stuff, but it's not like insanely challenging as you're picking up. We have really, really good notes that people can learn off of too. So it's a great introduction to the game if you're interested in speedrunning it.
So yeah, for the salt and pepper here, they give the tutorial of turn elements as we were just mentioning, and they turn Serge black, and it doesn't affect the damage really in this fight because salt and pepper are both yellow innates, so they only take extra damage from a green innate.
Yeah, so we see on Hobbes' screen, he took out Salt quickly. The challenge for this fight is actually hitting, because Serge and Pashul end up doing most of the damage. There is a strategy to use Lina, and you pick up a magma bomb that was in the room that Serge woke up in earlier. That makes the fight a little bit more consistent, but by using melee attacks here, it's actually faster as long as you hit. As you see with Hobbes' screen, Pashul missing a 3-3, it's just a common occurrence, and you know, you get extra run-ups from Pepor, but eventually took him out. Good job for Hobbes. EzioPony's just starting his fight. So Serge went up and did a 1-2-2, and the goal for this is to use the fireball damage. And every now and then, like on EzioPony's screen, Pepor will use the strengthen element. That puts a red on the field, and by using this fireball +2 when that extra red is on the field, the fireball +2 will do more damage. So it's, you can play the fight a little bit more riskily to make it faster. Oh, but he didn't get the good luck he needed because Pashul missed. What a surprise.
Yeah, Pashul, unfortunately, is pretty low innate accuracy. This is a lot.
Absolutely. Nice, Lina.
Play to finish.
So satisfying to see Lina get a knockout.
Yeah, one minor thing to kind of note is...
Ooh.
That sucks.
Oh, nice crit, though. Yeah, so, sorry to interrupt you, Andy, but as Pepor uses the pepper box, Lina's the one who's at most risk for that, because as we mentioned, their elements oppose each other. EzioPony just got very unfortunate because Pepper Box went off twice and it hit Lina twice. So sorry to interrupt you, Andy.
Oh, not a problem. So that means Lina's not going to stat up here. What I was starting to say is that Posho has a negative stamina return. So the majority of characters, and especially the ones that we're using in our party, will have a 1-for-1. So if you use one stamina, 1 AP, you'll get 1.0 stamina or more back. But for Posho, she's at a 0.9, so she can be a little bit lagging with the stamina. So we've seen our runners go to Lina to attack to replenish the stamina for Posho.
Yeah, and that's actually a key component of the entire speed run. Some of the characters that we choose or don't use, definitely it comes down to you need good stamina refresh for basic, like you cannot have a character with negative stamina refresh consistently in your party. We use them a couple of times, right? Like Pashul here, a couple of other fights, but we take them out whenever we can because the lower stamina has a really big impact on our ability to set up the fight properly. And so many of these fights are on such narrow margins that it can make the difference between being able to do a fast strat and avoid like a really, really scary attack or not. Stuff like that.
We saw a kid join Hobbes' party there. I saw that she had 9 strength on her, which is great. We can go into the strength values later, but we'll see on Hobbes' screen, he's going to go to this mansion in the background, and under the stairs in the background is an item called the Profiteer's Purse. This item is an accessory that when you equip it will give you more money at the end of a fight. But we don't really need that in this run. What we're going to do instead is disassemble it for materials, because it turns out that the Profiteer's Purse contains iron, which is a tier 3 material, which can make really powerful weapons and armor for this part of the game. We don't really need the armor, but we are going to upgrade Serge and Kid's weapons for the Steel Swallow and Iron Dagger. So it makes the next part of the game very completable. I don't know if it can do it with both the tier 1 weapons, but by upgrading it, it's gonna allow the runners to get through the mansion without much issue and in a timely manner as well.
Yeah, the developers didn't really intend for you to be able to get iron this early in the game. So, as mentioned, it's a huge boost.
And this is basically going to be the weapon that Serge uses for the entire rest of this run and the first, hour and change of the next chunk of any percent after this ends, right? It's like about 3.5 hours in.
Yeah.
The next one.
Yeah, it's pretty much halfway into the any percent run, and that run's about 7 hours that you finally upgrade to the next tier of weapon for Serge or Lynx. We'll see Hobbes, he's interacting with Pierre, a very fan-favorite character. There are 3 ways to go about the next level in the game, depending on who you want to take with you. Most people, especially myself, has probably gone down the Guile route, because you go into the bar, because it's one of the first areas of the game, and whoever you talk to first, you're kind of locked into their quest. So since we talked to Pierre, we can't take Guile if we wanted to, or Nikki. But for our purposes, Pierre happens to be the fastest character for the speed run, because we essentially just go up to the gates and go on through.
Wait. Let's be very clear. We do the Pierre route because Pierre is a hero.
That's
the
true.
fact that it's the fastest happens to be a side benefit. But obviously, we would still do the Pierre route even if it wasn't the fastest.
Absolutely.
There we go.
All right, let's see how strong our hero is. 5 strength. That's really strong for Pierre.
Good for him. That's 80 health, 5 strength. That's about as good as he does.
His default strength is 2, so
I always hope to get a 2 strength Pierre. It's so fun.
Oh, but see, I talk about this sometimes. I love the attention to detail whoever did the art design for this game put in. If you look at like the top of Pierre's socks, there's like a single pixel line of blue to match with his like sash. And it's like, because he has green socks, but then there's literally like, oh no, a guy like this would definitely have like a little accent mark at the top. Look at that style. So good.
Hobbes made it to the Viper Manor Gate first. Just before our boss fight, we're going to fight these 2 sergeants. And with good strength and good AP rolls from the guards, you can take them out fairly quickly. In the event that they didn't get the ivory helmet drop, which they did, both of them got the common drop for the salt and pepper fight, you could steal a bronze helmet from one of these guards. It's the common steal, 90% chance to get it. Just a little bit of time investment. Looks like a pretty clean fight for Hobbes. As EzioPony is collecting Pierre.
So Hobbes got a really, I think it's a good time to talk about it just for a second. Hobbes got a really nice starting AP. What we mean when we talk about AP is that stands for action points. It's how quickly the enemy will go. And it's random at the beginning of fights for every enemy. So the 2 guards there could have gone pretty much right away, or they can wait and allow you to do a bunch of stuff before they take their first attack. So on Hobbes' side, and both of them actually waited quite a while before doing anything. He was able to kill one without it going at all, and then the other one he killed right after it went.
EzioPony has a max strength Pierre, 6 strength. What a champion.
What a boss. Got the +2. I think his proc rate on that is less than 1%.
Yeah. Oh man. Alright, everybody's favorite boss Ketchup is here. Boom, there goes Pierre.
bring in the sauce.
So we put Pierre up front for this fight because whoever is in the lead is in the center of the party, and Ketchup will annihilate whoever's in the center. But every now and then, Pierre ends up dodging all of his attacks, which is impressive. And instead of this revive on Hobbes' screen, they'll use a Cure Plus instead, which is not very helpful for this fight at all. Because revive adds a white on the field, and that boosts Serge's attack power. With the Cure Plus, it adds a blue on the field instead, and that would reduce Kid's attack power and not boost Serge's attack power. So, it's standard that Pierre will get hit, but every now and then it's unfortunate when he dodges.
This is a little scary for Hobbes because for whatever reason his kid has super low health. He came into this fight at 68, and she's going to attack here, so it means she won't be on defend. If she gets hit with the flame knock, it could take her out, which would be unfortunate. You'd like her to get a little bit, like the level up, you'd like her to get a little bit more health here coming out of this.
So
go ahead, Andy.
I was just gonna say, once Ketchup gets to half health, he'll use this tech flame knock, and it knocks out Salt and Pepper.
Nice. So the flame knock is an incredibly impressive move, but more importantly, it's red element. And as PH was mentioning, Kid's HP was low, but she resists that because she is also red innate. So she was able to live there, thankfully, due to her resistances. Pretty good fight for Hobbes there.
Yeah, it was.
A sub 36 catch-up is always nice.
Yeah. We're going to see something interesting potentially. So on Ezio's side, you'll see the difference there as you start getting into strength values differing between the runners. Ezio got to 13 before this fight. Oh, okay. And then Pierre almost messed everything up. But so Serge, he theoretically, if he hits everything, big if, will be able to do a slightly faster version of this fight because of his higher strength value.
And we saw on Hobbes' screen as he exited the gate, he picked up a turn yellow element, which will be very useful in a few minutes, and we'll talk more about that later. But focusing on Ezio's fight, let's see if Serge manages to hit.
And if you were wondering, you might notice that the runners were defending. Once again, this tutorial fight, their HP is locked in until they finish their spiel, which is casting either Revive or the Cure Plus.
Yeah, so we see on Hobbes' screen, he's about to start the feed the Dragon Knight minigame. It's not much to it. We just feed the dragons 10 times. There's a certain order that's the same every time. Alright, on Ezio, he just got the Flame Knock going. Luckily, both Kid and Serge has very good HP on his side. Pierre's already got knocked out, so that's not a problem.
O'Malley with the comment in the chat. It's the first game triple tech. He's yeah, there you go. Although unfortunately for Salt and Pepper, they take the worst of it a little bit.
Alright, pretty clean end for Ezio. We're going to see Hobbes about to enter the Viper Manor. We're going to see if he's going to go for guard skip or not. I'm not sure if he will, but he has that option available. So before the door, there are 2 guards that guard it, and normally you fight them. Oh, he is going for guard skip. Nice. But with a specific trick and setup and good mashing, you can get through the door. Nice.
Got it.
Without having to fight them. That saves, at a minimum, like 40, 45 seconds of time. I saw Ezio also got a +1 to strength, so he's sitting at 14 versus Hobbes, who's at 13. Both are good and rather ideal strength values to have at this point that allow them to take care of the silver armored guards with a 2-2-3 attack. As long as it all hits, the guards should go down with no problem.
Yeah, Hobbes' Kid has a good amount of strength as well. Like in this upcoming fight, the field elements is going to be +1 to red, and then white's going to be -1 because of the black element. So between Kid and Serge, that's like a 2 strength difference. So like a 13 strength Serge is the same as a 11 strength Kid here.
Ezio's side, he did not go for guard skip, and then unfortunately, so one of the other things, because basically everything in this game is random, is enemy formations are random, which we talked a little about in the Lizard Rock section. So here, what can really hurt is Ezio got 4 guards, which means that not only is he taking the fight, Hobbes gets to skip entirely, but that this fight is also much, much longer than it automatically would be, because you could literally have fewer enemies, make it much easier to get through.
Hobbs had a really clean guard fight. Luckily, when you fall in that trap, which we'll talk about the code and going forward soon, those guards are always just three silver armored guards, because we end up taking their armor to impersonate them and make our way through the manor. But coming up, Hobbs is going to find the code to progress through the manor. So initially, we'll see on Ezio's screen as he goes into the manor, if you go straight up to the door, you have to enter a code to open up the door. And the code could be anywhere from, it's 2 numbers, anywhere from 1 to 9, and order does not matter. So we'll see what codes they get, but they're looking for a sum of 10 or less is usually a decent code.
I'm usually happy if I get sum of 12 or less, just because with Chrono Cross,
too.
you're always just like, just please don't be mean.
Oh,
there we go.
he's got 6-5, sum of 11. It's not bad.
Yeah. You may notice a little bit of funky movement here where he moves up first. So the area in the manor, if you walk in the middle of the carpets, you'll actually end up getting into a fight. So you have to be careful with that. And then, sorry, go ahead, Corp.
I was going to say, it's a kind of a throwback to Chrono Trigger, because in Chrono Trigger, there's a lot of ambush locations. There are not very many ambush locations in this game, but in this manner, if you walk in the center of the carpet, an enemy will drop on your head and you have to at least run away from it. So you see Hobbs, he picked up a sword to sell for money later. He's equipping Turn Yellow and Revive on Pierre, and then giving Serge extra equipment to make him tougher and stronger as he enters the next boss fight.
Yeah, the Dragoon's Honor that he picked up is a really nice accessory. It raises your attack by 1, magic by 1, and hit percent by 1.
And it's funny because it raises your hit stat, but that actually increases the percent to hit by like 3 or 4, I think, right? It's a pretty big difference.
I thought it was just 1, but
because I think if you look at like Lena's without it, she's like later. I think because it goes from like 92 to 96. Well, I mean, we'll get a chance to take a look because we will be actually moving it across some of our characters. To Andy's point, this is a really, really good item, and we will have like which characters are kind of our main damage dealers will shift throughout the course of this run. So it'll be we'll be trying to leverage our accessories as best we can.
All right, we're gonna see Pierre be a hero. He did it. What a hero!
Yeah,
he hit one.
Boss.
So yeah, he's gonna turn Serge yellow. These Neo N-bolts, these onion creatures, their innate element is green. By turning Serge yellow, he's going to do more damage against them than if he weren't. So 61 damage is a lot for a fierce attack. But the turn yellow only lasts so long. So if you have a lot of misses in this fight, it can be pretty miserable because you end up just not finishing off the bulb in time.
And Hobbs toggled the 2 enemies. One thing about this game, it was a different time, but female enemies have 5% less HP. So for this particular fight, it's a difference of 16 HP. So the first enemy was a female, so he's opting to defeat that one first.
Oof, double miss. So there goes the turn yellow for Hobbs.
Yeah,
It does not last that long, unfortunately.
Got a little lucky there though. So one of the things you may have noticed is that the bulb did a bush basher. So enemies also sometimes have like full scripts where everything they do is planned out. Other times there will be some elements of randomness. And these guys, after their first turn will always be an attack, but after that they can do either regular attacks or elements for like their next 2 rounds. So elements will generally be slower than physical attacks. So whenever we get an attack, it's usually going to be better than seeing an element from an enemy.
Yeah, so on Hobbs' screen, we saw Serge did not get another strength. He's still at 13, but Kid got to 12, which is pretty high for her. Coming up is a boss that Kid will do a lot of damage to because their elements oppose each other, and there can be a risk of doing too much damage to the boss too quickly. We'll see how Hobbs handles it, but still a tiny, tiny risk. And on Ezio's screen, we're going to see the code, and then so Hobbs is talking to a chest 20 times, because in this chest is a very good item, the Dragoon Gauntlet. It gives you a +3 to your attack power, which is invaluable for this category and any percent. It's just kind of amazing we could pick it up so early.
Well, speaking of homages to Chrono Trigger, I think that this is an homage to the Denadoro Mountains, Kiwala. You know, when you go up to him, mountains are nice.
Yeah.
Boy, you're nosy, and then he gives you a magic tab if you keep talking to him.
Mountains are great. View is nice. Mountains are great. Get out.
Right.
I love that enemy. I mean, yeah, it's not an enemy, it's a friend. So Ezio had a 9-5 code, which is worse. Yeah, not very good codes today, but that's okay. So we see on Hobbs' screen he's entering the code right now, and for every number, the Viper statue does a turn, and that adds up to about a second of time per turn. So for Ezio, it was a 9-5, which is a sum of 14. So that takes about 14 seconds for the door to open. And Hobbs had a sum of 11. So that's about the extent of how much time you save or lose with the code.
Yeah, it's nothing to reset over. It's just more of a morale thing that you just kind of cheer when you get a nice low number.
Oh, yeah. You'll actually notice that on Ezio's side, he didn't grab the bronze sword. And that's partially because, so Hobbs, having done guard skip, we don't really know if either of these guys are thinking of continuing their run past Lynx 2, but for general runs, if you skip that guard fight, you actually can end up a little low on money, so you can grab that sword to help you. Ezio didn't get it because getting that extra guard, the extra money that you get, kind of covers the cash that you would have gotten from selling the bronze sword.
And while Hobbs still has the lead, as indicated by that frozen flame on top of the screen, by not picking up that sword or the armor, Ezio is slowly catching up a little bit on time. But he is behind for now, mostly because he did not do guard skip. And he had a 4-guard encounter while he did that guard fight, so it's a bit unfortunate. On Hobbs' screen, we got the old man, Prophet, who is Balthazar. Spoiler alert, he reveals himself later, but he knows everything about what's going on, but he's only going to feed us tidbits because he's kind of a jerk. But anyway, he's telling us about the story in general, about 2 worlds, parallel dimensions, and where we fit in it. He's telling us by not telling us anything at all.
So, and now we get to, on Hobbs' side, fight Marcy, who is interesting because she's really kind of the first fight in the game that is really scary. Pretty much all the fights up until now, especially once you have an understanding of the mechanics like we do in the speed run, they're not very likely to end a run. Marcy absolutely can if things go wrong. So you got to be a little, like, this is probably the first real fight that as you're learning this game, you're like, will take like a death.
All right, Ezio had a pretty good Neo End Bulb fight there, so just commenting on that.
Nice.
Go ahead, PH.
Oh, I was done.
15 strength for EzioPony. And the Eagle Eye drop, wow.
So yeah, Marcy at half health, she'll use her level 3 tech Cat's Cradle. And then more importantly, once she's in critical HP, she'll use Ice Blast. So the goal is to get her just before half health, do big damage, and then bypass her critical HP in the fight.
Yeah, luckily Hobbs' Kid is really strong. But if Cat's Cradle hits Kid, she's going to get knocked out. Okay.
So since Hobbs is doing so much damage, he actually put her into critical HP, but since the Cat's Cradle script didn't go through yet, she actually used that instead of Ice Blast.
Good
That
fight.
was a
Very
really
nice
good
fight.
Shows that shows the power of having, like, his kid is really, really, really strong. 12 strength there is really good for kid. And he got the Ice Blast drop, which is key.
Yeah, the Ice Blast is the common drop, 90%, and the rares Iron, which does nothing for the runners, but the Ice Blast is big, as Peach has said.
Yeah,
for
we
the
will. Oops, sorry, go
oh.
ahead.
I was gonna say, just for Chrono Cross speedruns in general, there's a mix of us wanting the common drop, which is 90%, and sometimes we want the rare drop, which is 10%. But that was one instance where we absolutely do not want the rare drop. Just costs so much time on average.
Oh yeah,
So thankfully, yeah.
it's funny because it's one of those things too. I think to Andy's point also, it's funny. He's talked about it a lot, and as someone who started running this game a little more recently, you have to learn, like, morale can be so important because you really kind of have to be able to think on the fly a little bit for this run, which is why it can be so much fun. But having something where you have like a good run and then you get the iron from Marcy instead of the Ice Blast, you have to be able to shake it off and say, all right, we have all of our backups, we know how to handle it. Getting that isn't the end of the run. I just gotta power through, but it probably will cost you. It will cost time. You just have to shake it. You have to be like, all right, gotta get through.
Absolutely.
I used to say that it costs probably about 3 minutes, but with in recent years adding Genius to the fort, I don't think it plays that big a role. It's still big, but Genius kind of has helped balance it. If you had a low magic Lena late in the fort and you didn't have the Ice Blast, it was kind of scary with Bunya.
So Hobbes is in the final guard fight. We saw him do a 2-3, and at Serge's strength, as long as he's 12 or more, a 2-3 will knock out the silver armored guards, which is really convenient, because then you could better efficiently make use of your own stamina and versus the enemy's AP. EzioPony's at 15 strength now, is potentially, he's going to reach 16. If that's the case, he's going to have a potentially much faster fight than Hobbes. But Hobbes cleared it out well enough, so pretty good. And he got the 3 guard encounter versus sometimes you get the 4 guard encounter. So he's looking at a potential like 56-minute Lynx fight here, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, for like a race or relay environment. So one of the things that when you're really, really pushing for PBs, so you'll see some people will kind of like reset on some of their early, like the first few minutes of the game.
Ooh.
Oh no!
Okay.
That's really bad.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he didn't realize that he had healed. He was worried that he was short on health, and went into the menu to heal. But at the same time, so this eye enemy here in the door.
Ooh.
Oh, dude.
Oh, wow.
More Hobbes getting trolled. So this door, normally you hold up on the D-pad, and as long as you don't hit X to when the eyeball is open, you will not get the encounter, you'll open the door. But Hobbes just barely missed the timing after he paused, and then he did it again because the eye was just blinking instead. This is kind of scary. All right. Okay, he got through.
There you go. Yeah. So like that's the thing is that the eye, it's like it's random how quickly it closes when you first enter the room, and he got the fastest close where you cannot pause at all. You literally have to run up and mash X to get in, or you'll get in the fight. So by stopping for even just that little bit of time, he ended up getting the encounter.
So see on Ezio's screen, he's about to put he put Marcy in critical HP, because on Ezio's screen, his Surge is very strong, and his kid is about average, like maybe a little bit weak. But he's gonna do a 1-2-2 here, and then dash and slash, and that should knock her out.
Oh yeah, 15. That's so much damage. He's the reason why we do the 1-2-2 is we're basically saving a little bit of space. If Marcy is not dead, Marcy is not dead, you can still throw Fireball with Kid. If she gets to go there, she will Ice Blast, and it is bad.
16 strength on EzioPony and the Ice Blast. He is in good shape. Alright, Hobbes is starting off the Lynx fight. This fight is a little bit scary. Our goal is to do as much damage to him as possible without putting him into critical HP. When he goes into critical HP, he'll use an item called a Nostrum, which is a black element healing item, which heals 200 HP. So Hobbes is going to be counting damage as well as hitting for big attacks here. And at a certain point, just before critical HP, we're going to have Kid use a Pilfer, because Lynx has very good items to steal. A magic ring and then the rare power glove. But by using that Pilfer, we're going to be able to manipulate Lynx's AI, because he has certain responses to different type of elements that you use against him. And so when you use this Pilfer, instead of attacking you or healing, he will instead use Imbecile, which is a debuff to magic power, I think. And then Serge is going to try to finish him off, do extra damage here. He decided to defend for the stamina refresh, I think.
Hack there, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he... Alright. But he needs to do a dash and slash here in order to get the second manipulation. So he would use anti-white after this attack, rather than going for more damage or a heal. There's the anti-white.
Yeah, I think he got a little off script there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't follow exactly what happened at the very start, but yeah, looks like it. Should be able to finish him off here, though. Okay, yeah. Alright, disaster averted. And that was almost a sub 56 Lynx 1, so still a good time for Hobbes.
Absolutely.
If he had avoided the issues with the wallmaster, the doormaster there, that would have been a low 55.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ezio, getting 4 guards here.
Oh my gosh, again.
And misses. Oh, so sad to see.
That's really unfortunate. So that shows the difference between the combination of guard skip and the RNG there. Ezio is going to fight 8 guards, and Hobbes had to fight 3. So that's a big difference. Hobbes in the chat talking about he thought going into the doormaster there, he thought that he needed to heal Kid, and I think she may have still actually been at full health there.
Yeah, Hobbes made it look pretty easy, but the Lynx 1 fight is pretty challenging to get through when things go wrong. Luckily, both runners have a revive equipped to Pierre, just in case that happens. And if Pierre happens to get knocked out, that's the ideal situation, because Pierre is just there to be a hero, just the stand-in hero to take all the damage he can.
He sacrifices himself for us.
Exactly.
What a noble individual.
Exactly. He's a hero.
He's 10 under the max.
Yeah, Hobbes finished the manor with 14 strength. And Ezio's entering this fight with 16 strength. 14 leaving the manor's about average. 16 is on the high side.
Yeah, definitely. I think 16 could even be 17. 17 would mean that Ezio got every single strength up. I don't think he's missed one yet, which is pretty nice. So each of those strength ups, it's about a 2/3 chance. So getting 7 or 8 of those in a row, pretty lucky, but definitely good to have. Won't matter as much for the Lynx percent as it does for the Annie percent, because there's going to be a long stretch where we're not really using Serge coming up here in a little bit.
Yeah, we mentioned... Oh, go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say is that Hobbes had a really high strength Kid, actually finishing the fort with 13, and her chip damage played a big role of helping him maintain time.
So on Ezio's screen, see starting off the fight. That is a lot of damage for a 3/3 there.
Yeah.
He did get an Eagle Eye drop. He could have started the fight with Eagle Eye to play it a little bit more safe, but he chose not to do that. That's perfectly fine. On Hobbes' screen, we're going to get the thing. It's going to be said, so prepare yourselves, everybody. Assassin of Time. Chrono Trigger.
Oh my
I
goodness.
said it.
The thing was said. It scared Serge so much that he jumped off the cliff. Anyway, on Ezio's side, it's going pretty well.
This fight is
he's
going
so far
great.
not missing anything.
And also, Ezio's Surge has a ton of health. 150 HP here is really high.
Oh,
That
wow.
is very true. Yeah, health is something that's not as important to track as opposed to strength, but it will play a difference in the upcoming section of the game. So that is a nice boon to Ezio's side. Oh yeah, he can just dash and slash from here, and the fight is over.
Sir.
Yeah, unlike the last race where both under 100. That's true, yeah. You have to take what you get.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to pick. We just have to go with what we can.
Very good Lynx 1 fight for EzioPony.
Yeah.
Almost
Considering
sub 1 hour.
you get 2 4-guard fights, that's getting in there right around an hour. That's still really solid.
17, wow.
And 12 magic on Serge. Magic will play a role in the next section, but that's pretty rare for Serge. Normally he's floating around 10, so 12 is great.
His Surge is super good. We'll see now kind of like we're going into a long sort of like plot section here. On Hobbes' side, we just saw Kid collapse. And we're going to find out that she has been poisoned. You know, Lynx, that dastardly individual that he is, put some poison on his dagger that he nicked her with. And that's going to put her life at risk. And they're going to ask us to try and go save her. We're mean to Kid. We actually basically be mean to Kid wherever possible in this entire speed run. I forget if it was Ash or Andy on a run when they were doing it a while back, explained that I believe the Japanese speedrun community actually has a whole category called the Be Nice to Kid category, where you have to like say yes to her whenever she asks you stuff, but we don't do that here.
Yeah, they.
Go ahead, Andy.
No, I didn't have anything.
Oh,
big.
I was just gonna point out on Hobbes' screen we see Korcha. Korcha in the community is not everybody's favorite character. I think Hobbes would disagree. Oh, Andy as well. Sorry about that. But there he is. It's Korcha, everybody.
And I'm going to point. I'll point something out that you're not going to be able to unsee. Harley is going to walk up to the bed next to Kid, and when she fades out, she doesn't go fully transparent. It's like the game. They set it to 99%. I don't know if it was intended or not to show that if she's eavesdropping into this conversation.
Yeah, when you pointed that out in one of the other like marathon type races in the past, that blew my mind because I can no longer unsee it either. But I think it is intentional because if you choose to save Kid, you get the astral amulet and are allowed to travel back and forth between the dimensions to find a way to save her. But normally, for the speedrun, we don't save her. So Korcha decides to be responsible for whatever reason, and he takes the amulet away from us. And we don't get that back until after Fort Dragonia. So in this category, we don't even see it, but in any percent, Harley or Harl will give it back to us. And so it makes sense that she is here listening to everything so that she has the opportunity to just snatch it when nobody's looking.
So yeah, it just works out faster to not save Kid. No need to do a detour side quest, and we also get Glenn, which plays a big role into the run as well.
Yeah, the thing was said on Ezio's screen.
Right, and as Andy mentioned, Glenn. So Glenn is he's not that Glenn from Chrono Trigger. It's a different Glenn. It's kind of a common name, but he's still a swordsman, pretty honorable, and really, 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 really good. So he's going to be one of the characters that we use pretty much once we get him through the rest of this portion of the run, and we have him in our party pretty much whenever he's available during even the full game run. We'll lose access to him for a portion of time, but once we get him back, we keep him in the party the whole way through. Yeah, exactly, Hessian. All swordsmen named Glenn are overpowered. Exactly.
Yeah, ultimately the party is going to be Serge, Glenn, and Lena. But Polsho is put into the party temporary because Lena will strike up a large conversation with her cousin that runs the element shop back at Termia.
Yeah, so after, as Andy is alluding to, after this section, we'll go to Termina next, and we'll be buying some elements, going to the smithy to make some better equipment, and picking up Glenn. So by putting Pashul in the party, you avoid, I think it's like 30 seconds of cutscenes with Lena, but that's the only option you have. It's either Pashul or Lena. So we angered Korcha because, well, his whole reason for helping Kid out is because he wants to marry her. That's his whole thing. So by refusing to help her, he thinks we're awful people. So naturally we go to him because we want his boat. We want to get off this this island. But he says no, like a brat. And so his mom steps in. Matcha, she shows up. She's like, hey, these guys are just struggling. Why don't you help them out? And he's like, no. She's like, fine, I'll do it. I'll take your boat. Let's go. So Matcha is great.
Yeah, and I always love this as, I think, a little bit of like a lampshade on the RPG tropes of the era, right? Because a lot of the time she starts by saying, why don't you help them out? And I feel like in a lot of games that would be like okay, now this character is going to join your party. But instead she goes, you know what? Actually, screw it. It's time for Matcha to have an adventure. And she comes along with and is actually much, much, much better than Korcha as a character as well. She's one of the better red innate characters that you can get in the game.
Yeah, she has a really high magic stat.
I believe on average her defenses, like her magic defense and regular defense, are actually one of the top, or if not the top defensive character in the game.
Yeah, she's great. And also, if you do choose to play this game casually, I highly encourage the use of her techs. This game does not take itself too seriously, and so one of her attacks is basically she sort of does kind of like a jump backwards into the enemy. I won't spoil the whole thing, but it's quite funny. So she's great. Highly recommend Matcha whenever possible.
Our little bonus of not doing extra content is that Matcha comes back into the room and actually grabs 1,500 gold that gets added to your money, which helps us a lot.
Oh, I didn't know that. She actually gives us money too?
Yeah, we didn't know for a long time, and then Evil Ash was kind of redoing the money route, and he's like, oh, it's 1,500.
I didn't know that either. That's amazing. Matcha is just, she's just the best.
So much to learn about this game, just casually and as a speedrun. It's one of the fun parts about running the game. So on Hobbes' screen, after we got Matcha's promise to help us, we had to go see Diria. She's the priestess of the dragon, like, cult, whatever. But she's gonna kind of act as like a fortune teller, kind of telling us where to go next and what to do. But she's very vague about it. So she mentions go to the place where it all began, or where angels lose their way, where dimensional distortions, all this stuff. But basically it means just go to the beach eventually. But we have to talk to Diria in order to leave, and so we'll be, for Hobbes, he'll be on his way out.
Another funny thing that kind of mentioned about Korcha is that at first he's like, what are you going to do? Try to save someone you barely know? Like, you only have 1 in a million chance. And then you're like, all right, like, I don't know. And he's like, how could you not save your friend? That's despicable.
Yep.
Yeah. So canonically in the game, when we choose not to save Kid, what happens is Norris, who is a character that we don't really run into in this version of the speedrun, but you spend a lot of time with him later in the game. is from the Pora military, and actually somehow ends up in Goldove, finds out, and goes to the mainland himself, where hydras are not extinct, and gets a hydra humor to save Kid's life. So that's actually how she survives in the game's story, even if you choose not to help her out.
Yeah. So on Hobbes' screen, we see one of the differences between Korcha and Matcha. This dock master doesn't give anybody permission to dock there, but Matcha, she just uses intimidation, and the dock master's like, "Yes, ma'am, I'll let you stay here." If you brought Korcha here, he would give him, I think, alcohol, and just kind of say, here's a bribe, take it. So that's kind of the difference of their characters, one of the few, at least.
So speaking of, here is our boy Glenn again, kind of thinking about things, moving himself deeply to do what he thinks is right, because as we all know, teenage instinct is never wrong, right? So, after this, we're going to go through one more kind of longer purchase section. This is going to be pretty close to the last purchase that we do. There's one tiny thing that we have to do a little bit later, but this little stretch that we'll be doing in the next few minutes here on Hobbes' side is pretty much it for getting like weapons and elements.
Yeah, at this point of the game, tier 3 elements are unlocked. So that Ice Blast that we got a bit ago was a level 4 element, but this shop sells level 3. And if you didn't get the Ice Blast, you would just buy an extra Aqua Ball. And with elements, they have a plus-minus factor. So for any of the damaging spells, you can equip them as a level 1 spell or a level 8. And it shifts the power based on what level. In short, it's always better to cast the strongest spell. So Ice Blast has higher spell power than Aqua Ball. So if you're going to use a level 1 element and you're going to choose between Aqua Ball and Ice Blast, go with Ice Blast, the higher spell power.
Yeah, so Fancy Narwhal asked the question, never really understood the connection between Trigger and Cross. Is Glenn supposed to be a frog? In this game, Glenn is just a regular person. He has no connection to the Glenn from Chrono Trigger. So it's just a nod, a slight reference to Chrono Trigger. But Chrono Trigger, Glenn was a man, and he was turned into a frog by Magus, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes. The only character that really has a connection with Chrono Trigger is Kid, and that's only because of in the PlayStation version and the re-releases after that, they had a cutscene at the end of the game where Luca picks up a baby in the carriage, and that's Kid.
And at one point, Guile was actually supposed to be Magus, but they were going to do that, and then they unwound it. But that's part of why. I mean, there's a lot of similarities in like his character model. He even kind of moves the same way. But I think that they felt like that was too. They just decided not to. The developers really did want to keep this a little bit distinct.
Yeah, this game has a very, very large character roster with, I forget, 46 characters. So hard to get plot in for them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on Hobbes' screen, we're about to collect Glenn in the party, and Glenn's strength is random. It can be anywhere from 10 to 20. We're hoping for a Glenn that is 15 strength or more, but the higher strength he is, the easier time both runners will have for the next section of the game. So in any percent, you normally would rename Glenn to a single letter, G, but that's just, you save a little bit of time on text later in any percent. In this category, it's not as important, so we just don't rename him anything. 14 strength Glenn for Hobbes.
Another slight optimization here is putting Matcha in the party, which saves about 20 seconds. If you don't do it, you have to watch her swim out to the sea.
Which, by the way, is objectively hilarious, watching her just kind of like dive off, and she does like this long, slow backstroke back to Golden Rose. But it's slow.
So yeah, Marble has some different elements here. So we're gonna be picking up some turn elements, and as well as strengthen, Eagle Eye, and Genius. When you want to go into those spells.
Yeah, earlier, EzioPony got a rare Eagle Eye drop from the Neo N-Bulb fight, the yellow Onion Men creatures. So he doesn't eventually have to buy the Eagle Eye drop. But it's easy to buy it because it's very fast with muscle memory. 14 magic Lena for Hobbes.
Wow.
That is fantastic. Yeah, normally Lena will be anywhere from 9 to like, say 16, but on average she's like 11 or 12. So 14 magic means she's going to be pretty set for the rest of the run. And one of her goals is to get to 15 magic before they enter Fort Dragonia. And there's going to be like six or 7 fights in between where she could get another magic up in between. So that's really good for Hobbes.
Yeah, it's a funny thing of this game again. Like you don't like to stat watch too much, but because the funny thing is that small differences can make a large impact because there are breakover points, right? Where, if I have 15 magic versus 16, makes this fight a lot riskier. If I have 13 strength versus 12, I can do this to kill these guards, right? And these crop up later in the game a little bit less, but especially in the Lynx 2% component, the first couple hours, they definitely happen more often because you'll have these single points where you get past it and it's like, okay, now I can do something that's materially better.
So Hobbes has still maintained his lead, but we're coming up on a section of great RNG variance, potentially, between the two runners. There is a chance that Ezio can catch up quite a bit of time. We'll go into that a little bit later. We saw Ezio in the smithy. We didn't talk about it before, but we disassembled some of the goodies we got from Viper Manor, and instead we forged a steel sword for Glenn and an iron ladle for Lena. And the attack power is nice, but more importantly, by upgrading their weapons to tier 3, their hit percentage goes up. And we really, really need them to hit their attacks from this point of the game forward, because the AP, the action points we have to deal with the bosses going forward are going to be kind of tight, kind of risky to deal with. So if we have a lot of misses, it can really prolong the fight and even potentially cause all the characters to wipe and game over. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, Chrono Cross. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going from 2 characters bouncing, Kid and Serge, bouncing damage back and forth, to pretty much putting all your eggs in one basket and using 2 characters to buff 1 character. So for right now, it's going to be buffing Serge up with some of those elements that we just purchased.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Now that we've, and you'll see that this is actually a mechanic that we kind of abuse pretty much for the whole rest of the speedrun, even when doing any percent, is the idea, really the 2 main strategies I would argue are either trying to get buffs onto one character who does a lot of physical damage and then maxing that out, or trying to get the field all one color where you can throw a really powerful element with a good magic user. And that's pretty much what we'll do. Like, that's mainly the mechanics that we'll use.
Yeah, so see on Hobbes. Go ahead, Andy.
Go ahead, take corporate.
Okay, I was gonna say on Hobbes' screen, we entered this ship section. There are 3 fights on the ship that we could just run from, and that was the first one we saw on Hobbes' screen. But this fight we cannot run from. What we're gonna do is have Glenn use a turn blue on Serge to boost his attack power against Polly. Polly is red innate, so blue does extra damage. We're gonna hope that Lena could get this 1-1-1-1 to level 4 so she can use this Ice Blast. Very good for Hobbes. So with a full blue field, Polly's attack Flap will end up doing far less damage to all party members, especially Serge, who's now blue, and Lena. So Hobbes he's got a good AP start right here. He might actually defeat Polly before, not before the Flap.
Still a really good start.
Yes. And even though this hit Serge, okay, I thought that was Lena for a second.
But since Serge is a blue innate, he takes additional damage from red magic, so it can be scary if he's low HP and doesn't have a high resilience stat.
Yeah, but a very good fight for Hobbes.
Ooh.
50 magic on Lena already, and his Surge
level
and
up.
Glenn are climbing up. 14 magic for EzioPony as well. So they are neck and neck, so to speak. But I saw EzioPony's Lena has far less HP. You kind of hope that Lena has more than 115 HP. Of course, you want more than that, but you can't get too greedy. But his
This is
Lena-
where This is where that death Lena took in the Fossil Valley fight kind of hurts, because that's probably part of why she's a little low.
Indeed. Yeah, the Fargo fight is far less random than the Poly fight. You're gonna have us buff Surge. You're gonna strengthen him and turn him red, and that'll do extra damage against Fargo, who is blue innate. Oh, but a miss. Never good to see.
Well, and Fargo's nice here, because even though he's a blue innate, he casts Strengthen, which is a red element, which puts an extra red on the field, which will really up our Surge damage here. Especially because even though this Glenn is not the Glenn from Chrono Trigger, we still have an X-Strike capability, which happens to also be red. So it also does extra damage when the field is fully red.
Yeah, Glenn is really good early game for this category and any percent, but in any percent is where he shows his true value. At the very end of the game, that X strike is just so invaluable for the run.
It's always fun when Lena gets the kill.
Yeah, so close. Yeah, Hobbes had some misses from Surge and doesn't have very good strength values for both Surge and Glenn at the moment.
Yeah, missing those 2-3s hurt, but he wisely did the X strike instead of attacking more.
Yep.
And what would have happened is Strengthen would have worn off and his X strike would have been diminished. So well played.
Yeah, so the one thing that really helps Hobbes here, so he got basically perfect level ups there. Surge got 2 strength, Glenn got 2 strength, Lena got 2 magic, which is the thing we're mainly looking at, are those 3 stat pools. That's as good as that can go, without like a lucky +2, which can happen for Surge or Glenn's strength. Lena cannot get a +2 to her magic.
Yeah, but at this point, she doesn't need it, even if it were possible. She's like she's now a contender for like Sorceress Supreme right now. 16 magic at this point is ridiculously good.
Get her. What is it? The cloak of, I don't even remember the name of it.
All right, so I mentioned that this section of the game has a high variance in terms of RNG of what could be. That's because we're going to, or Hobbes and EzioPony are going to navigate this ship, and in order to progress through the ship, they need to find a key, and the key can be in one of 3 locations, and they're going to check it sequentially, so that they'll check the first location, the second location, and the third, just because it's faster to check it that way. If Hobbes gets 3rd key, and EzioPony gets 1st key, their times are going to start normalizing. So Ezio is going to catch up and Hobbes is going to fall behind. Conversely, if Hobbes gets 1st key and Ezio gets 3rd, Hobbes is going to have a very, very big lead. It's going to be hard for EzioPony to come back from. So we'll see what happens.
I think they were about 4 minutes difference. Depending, Hobbes is a little bit more experienced, so may have done the purchase section a little bit faster, but let's assume that was about the same. If Hobbes gets 3rd key here and Ezio gets 1st, it'll probably cut about half of that deficit out. So he'll still probably be ahead after leaving this, but if he gets 3rd key, it would definitely bring the race much, much closer.
Uh-oh. So Hobbes is starting out the ghost dance by running into the door frame. Nice recovery, Hobbes. All right, guys.
He took a very aggressive line there. Did nice. So the ghost dance, we need to talk to that pirate on the right, because until you do, the key actually doesn't get placed into one of the 3 locations you can find it. We obviously don't want to fight that ghost, so we have to sort of circle around while everyone's chatting until we can actually go talk to the guy we need to.
Yeah, so one aspect of the RNG in this section is that strength on Surge. So right now, Hobbes' Surge is a bit, like, I guess average right now, but EzioPony's is pretty strong, sitting at 17. Depending on the fights that both of them get, depending on, what key they get, they all have to fight one ghost fight regardless. that Ezio can catch up a little bit more if he gets better luck than Hobbes does in this fight. So, for example, Hobbes has gotten attacked by, I think, all 3 enemies so far. Serge is about to get knocked out, but he's done quite a bit of damage on all the enemies so far. We should be able to finish him off without too much trouble.
It's tough though, because so that extra black, you can see the impact that the field effect, having that black element on the field, is that normally Serge would have been able to kill the skeleton enemy on the left, the crossbone, just with his level 2-3 attacks, but he survived with like about a good 10-15 health there. So let's see if he gets first key.
Oh, he got it.
Got it. Wow.
Very good. Good
Off he
luck
goes.
for Hobbes. Looks like on Ezio's screen, he's having a decent poly fight. Flap did not hit Lena. So far, so good for him. But yeah, Ezio's going to need first key in order to have a chance at coming back. I mean, things can happen later on. Hobbes can just get abysmal luck later on, but his lead is now kind of solidified if Ezio cannot get first key.
And I mean, there's always like the Divas section and Mount Pi. Like, there's a ton of stuff. This game has so many different ways to go. Ooh, really nice escape too.
Yeah.
But this game has so many different ways that it can go like really nicely or really poorly. So certainly Ezio's not out of it, but Hobbes's first key there is a huge difference maker. Like you said, and kind of like locking in that he's got a pretty big. He'll like his lead is. There's no chance that his lead like massively evaporates in kind of like one fell swoop of RNG there, like it can.
Yeah, key RNG is one of the things you just simply can't control. You know, if you're on a run and you have lower stats with good execution and then stuff, you can mitigate the time loss, but getting something like third key is just something that's unfortunate.
Totally. So Ezio's start here in the Fargo fight was not quite as good as Hobbes's. He got a more challenging starting AP. So basically Fargo went pretty much as quickly as he could. Bosses aren't allowed to what we call zero roll, which means go instantly. But Fargo one rolled, which is the fastest that he can. The good news for Ezio is that his Surge is really strong. So it didn't actually really hurt him that much because he was able to do a lot more damage up front with his attacks than Hobbes did. So good fight.
Yep, good fight. Yeah, so
Ooh,
you see
and
on
a rare
Hobbes'
drop.
screen, he's about to start the Deadhead fight. Deadhead is a pretty unique boss in this game, because as PH was mentioning and Andy about AP values and mechanics of this game, all of the bosses in this game have a random value that they start with. So let's say, so Deadhead has 7 AP, I think. But
That's 6.
on the first turn, it's random. But because Deadhead used his first turn to form, it's gone back to now a consistent thing we could account for now. So we'll be able to manipulate Deadhead appropriately with Eagle Eye, Strengthen, and then Surge's stamina pushing here. He's going to do a 3-3. Very nice.
Yeah, and when Corporate mentions stamina pushing, what he means is that, so the idea of those action points, right? So Deadhead, without getting really deep into the mechanics, what we call his floor AP of 6, that's like, let's just, we always assume that he will go after 6 stamina worth of stuff. Elements use 1 stamina, and then physical attacks will use whatever the strength of the attack is. But so if you get up to 5 stamina used, and then you do like a 3-3 with Surge, that means that we got to use 11 stamina before he gets to go next, even though he actually only has 6 action points. And it doesn't go put him in like negative and make him go faster the next time. It basically resets to that 6 every single time.
Yeah, so we see on Hobbes' screen he was using Cure Plus on Deadhead. It takes this stereotypical RPG role that healing elements are effective against the undead. But because his Lena was so strong, 125 damage with the Cure Plus is phenomenally good. Deadhead went down really early, so very good fight for Hobbes.
And Ezio now going into his go stance. You'll see if he's able to get it. Also, Hobbes is really, really good run on stats here. So he's actually in pretty good shape now.
It was mentioned before, but at this point of the game, Serge's strength doesn't matter very much for the rest of this category. For any percent, we want to keep tracking his strength and hopefully get stronger and stronger, but Serge has done his job for the most part. Now it's up to Glenn and Lita to pick up the slack. Oh!
Ugh, dang it. Ezio got caught. So he was taking kind of a little bit more conservative line. There's a few different ways that you can do the go stance. The most aggressive one, and the way that Hobbes did it is kind of like the second fastest, but it's pretty close to the fastest. Ezio was taking a little bit more of a safety strat, but unfortunately, still got caught, so has to reset. There we go. Okay, through. Not too bad.
A really good recovery. That's when you get caught by the ghosts. That's tough to bounce back and avoid them. And close call at the door there.
I know. I don't know if you guys could hear. I one of those the involuntary expulsion of air kind of thing.
Nope, you're good.
Right, so Hobbes is going to kind of do the last big sort of element allocation menu that we have here and set up for the Mount Pyre and Fort sections, and that's actually going to be the rest of this category.
So Garden Aiden asking a good question. Is there any reason we come back to buy Magnify instead of getting it the first time you're in Marbule? And the answer is that yes, there's a second shop fellow over there, and he is not present until after you finish the ghost ship. And that Magnify is used a few times in the rest of this run, and many more times in any percent. So
yeah, and actually even beyond. So it's really funny because the dude in the hot tub, his brother never gets to hang out in the hot tub, which is justice for bro of G. But oh wow, 2 first keys. That's awesome. The other
very
thing
nice
is
luck for Ezio.
Yeah, the other thing is the money. We actually wouldn't have had enough money. Even if the shop was available at the time. We need the cash that we get from the rest of this stretch in the ghost ship. Because if you have first key like this, you can actually technically be short on buying the Magnify and the Diminish. But even just the Magnify is still really expensive. If you're doing just Lynx 2, it's still about 1,600 gold.
All right, everybody, get your W's ready in chat. So we have the third tutorial from Salt and Pepper. 4th, maybe, at this point? Yeah.
4, I
First,
think.
The second, then catch-up fight in this one. So 4th tutorial fight. They're teaching us about trap elements. Something I never used casually, but it's an interesting mechanic. And Salt, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, so Pepor kind of loses his cool, and he's had enough. He just can't believe how ridiculously stupid he is. So he goes, whoa, 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 what, what do you mean?
He's not happy. Then he
So,
actually
yes.
starts beating up Salt. Oh, that's a good. That's 2 level 3s and a level 1. Also, that's pretty good damage.
Yeah, this fight is great because Pepor will sometimes keep attacking Salt for you, which can help you out if your Glenn is just a little bit weak.
He actually
Glenn
can
is
kill
okay.
Salt. It's great. Really funny.
Yeah, we see we've switched over to buffing Serge, so now we're buffing Glenn, giving him Eagle Eye and Strengthen. And luckily the Eagle Eye matches up with Glenn's innate element, which is green, so that just adds more to his attack power.
So Hobbes is also doing something that, so we'll see. So you can see Lena's hit right there is 92%. So this is what we were talking about a little bit. Hobbes has put the Dragoon's Honor on Glenn to help him with his damage a little bit because he's right on one of those kind of breakover points where if he was a little bit stronger, he would have been able to kill without it. But at his current strength value, he's right on the edge of being able to consistently kill Salt at the start as we go through this fight. So we'll actually see him probably move that over if he remembers to Lena to help her magic values in the next section. Excuse me.
Yeah, so unfortunately Hobbes had to do an extra 2 because Serge missed, and that was just enough time for that strengthen to wear off of Glenn. So Glenn would have normally knocked out Pepper with that 3-3, but he lost his strength up on the final 3 attack. But still a really good fight for Hobbes. Pretty much nothing out of the ordinary. And standard drops. So this tutorial fight is really important for both this category and any percent, but the common drops are very good defensive items for our characters. The rare drops are very good offensive items for our characters. So we kind of hope for the offensive equipment because that has more utility for most of the run. But for this, for playing it safe, getting the common drop is also really, really good. So he's going to put that on Lena and Serge.
All right, let's see. So Ezio here, and you can see how much damage his Serge is doing to the deadhead on that same attack. I think Hobbes did like 88, where Ezio did like 100, 102. So to excuse me, to corporate image's point earlier, that's where like Lena's magic being really, really good was actually a big help for Hobbes because his damage values are kind of, again, like right on the edge of being just good enough.
See Hobbes coming up on one of the most dangerous fights in the run. The Fire Dragon can be a very big problem to people. You got an attack called Fire Breath, which does a lot of damage to everybody, to a single character, but it hurts everybody. More likely, Lena will not survive the attack, but depending on how the runners choose this fight, they can set up 2 blues on the field and knock off the red that's currently on the field right now, and that will reduce the Fire Breath damage and make Lena more likely to survive. So Hobbes got a really good start to this fight, so unlikely he's not going to get punished from it, and Lena did not get hit, so that's good. So he should have a fairly nice fight.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
He overmashed. So now he needs a high roll. So the Fire Dragon has 6 AP, so if it does its minimum, it'll... Okay, cool. So he got lucky. He got the extra. He's fine. So, like, that's the thing where when we talk about, like, some of these fights are, like, really on a razor's edge, like, it can be very easy. If you make, like, even really, really small mistakes, like doing 1 extra level 1 attack, can be it can be very punishing.
Also the misses, like right now we use Eagle Eye on Glenn, and he's at 99% to hit. But there is that 1% chance that you can miss, and this is one fight we don't want this fight to last any longer than it already does. Luckily Hobbes is on track to finish really quickly. Lena should do a 1-1 then Aqua Ball, and this probably will not come out, and if not, Glenn will finish the job.
That was a really low. I think Hobbes' Serge has maybe really bad magic. He did 40 with his Aqua Ball. I feel like
remember EzioPony's Serge is really good with magic. I did not keep... Ooh! Speaking of misses. But luckily, wasn't punished for it very much. Alright. Yeah, just barely. Still a very good fight for Hobbes. Everybody survived, and there's a chance he gets a magic ring drop. He does not need it, but for runners struggling with magic gains, getting the rare magic ring can help out a little bit.
So, to your mama, to your question, it's like, yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why, at least I can't speak to anyone else, but I feel like a lot of those of us who run this game really love a lot of the aesthetics, and obviously the music for Chrono Cross is kind of top tier. And the way that the game looks, I think this was sort of the end of the PS1 era, Square at sort of the height of its powers for that console. So obviously it has a very specific visual approach, but I think really, 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 in some ways really holds up if you have an affinity for kind of these pixel polygon style graphics. It's also Hobbes going into the Divas fight here, so we're going to get a chance to fight Karsh again, Marcy again, and our first time up against Zoa, who speaks exclusively in caps and is great. One of the other routes, the Nikki route, when you try to get into the manor, he stands at the top of like 100-foot tall tree and yells down at you, "Are you man enough to fight me, Ghost Boy?" Which is a really good line.
He even yells in his sleep. The Z's are on all caps.
Yeah, that's
Fantastic.
right. He's best.
So for the three Devas fight, the goal is to take out Marcy first. She's actually the fastest character in this fight, so she's likely to get 2 attacks off at the beginning. And then she starts using String Phone, which is a slow blue element attack that hits everybody. So they just used an X strike or cross strike there to get rid of her. Next is Zoa. He got a kind of an early start, so there's a chance that Hobbes won't be able to take out Zoa before he uses Geronimo. There he goes. So this is a slow attack that puts a yellow on the field, which will reduce Glenn's attack power because they oppose each other.
That's actually a really good example of like a risk-reward decision. Hobbes had the choice, if he had wanted it, to go 3-3 with Glenn before using the Eagle Eye. And if he had hit both of them, he would have killed Zoa without seeing the Geronimo. If he misses, now he's like a lot further behind in the fight than he would have been otherwise, because he needs to like kind of restore stamina, and now he needs to figure out how he's gonna. So you get these really kind of like interesting decisions all the time based on when Chrono Cross throws you off script. Every time the fight stays on script, it's pretty straightforward. But what's really fun about it and interesting but challenging is when you have to go off script and think through how you want to do stuff.
Good fight for Hobbes, and we see on Ezio's screen, he's just getting the W's in. "20 strength Glenn, 18 magic Lena." Man, Hobbes' Lena is a goddess among women, because she is.
Meanwhile,
she's gonna be the destroyer.
Ezio's side, Pepper crit on Salt, so extra damage. Love it.
That crit is pretty rare, but it's always satisfying to see.
Oh yeah. I think he forgot to strengthen.
Yeah, that damage wasn't quite right. Strengthen increases a character's damage by 20%. How many Glenn's threes there are in the hundreds?
Yeah, and because you can have a Glenn that does like 90 damage there, but usually that means that he's got like 13 strength or something, and we know that that's not the case. Yeah, he's confused. I think he's realizing that he's off script right now and trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, the good news is that Salt is really close to getting knocked out. So he goes with Glenn right now. Should finish him off. Also, Pepor is poisoned, so he's going to be taking damage every so often, so that's going to help that out at least. But yeah, if you think calmly, you'll get through the fight with very little issue. Let's see, on Hobbes' screen, he's fighting the Dragoon Rider, which guards the entrance to Fort Dragonia. This fight, he's red innate, so we want Lena and Serge to use blue elements against him. I did not see if Glenn got the good start, but there's a chance you can skip his attack called Acacia Breath.
He got a really good start. He got Magnify off and Lena 2-3 before the Rider went.
So Ezio got through the fight. 415 damage.
Wow.
So much.
So this should do it.
Yep. Ezio also got the common drops. Very good fight for Hobbes.
Mm-hmm.
So Hobbes is about to set his foot inside Fort Dragonia first. Ezio is about 3 fights behind at this point.
Yeah, Hobbes' Lena is really, really good. It's Crazy.
Conveniently, the game gives us frog prints if you don't do the Water Dragon Island side quest. If you go to the Water Dragon Island and do the side quest where you fight the doors, the Water Dragon will give you this spell, this summon. But thankfully, we get it here.
Yeah, Andy,
and it's
you want to
actually-
explain how summons work at the game?
Yeah, some summons, and in this case, you need to have the field the same color as the summon. So in order to cast Frog Prince, you need a field to be all blue. So for these fights coming up, we're going to be using Frog Prince and just trying to set up the field. We know when the enemies are going to use a tech, some of them will have a chance to interrupt the field and put a different element on there. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see some of the boss fights coming up that the whole goal of the fight is to set up that blue field. And we'll see why, because the damage from the Frog Prince summon is just so significant compared to regular melee attacks or element attacks.
And also, some bosses have very, very good physical resistance, but don't necessarily have great magic resistance. And obviously, we have to take our damage where we can get it, right?
Yeah, you go from Ice Blast that has 28 spell power to Frog Prince that has 80. It's quite the jump. And then, of course, you're always seeing Frog Prince in a setting where the field's all blue. So it ups the damage that much.
Oof. Glenn got KO'd by the fire dragon there.
Ugh. It's tough.
So it's going to be tough. He can finish this fight with Lena and Serge. It's going
It's
to
gonna be really hard.
Yeah. So the option here is to run away, and then if he wants to heal up Glenn, he's got to run away twice.
Yeah.
Because the fire dragon will pull you in. One of the few enemies in the game that will not let you heal up after a fight if you want to run away. But he got the revive off, so he's taking a chance on the fight.
We haven't talked
when
about it.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
PH.
I was gonna say we haven't talked about it, but Chrono Cross is somewhat unique in that you have guaranteed 100% runaways from every fight in this game, literally up to and including the final boss of the game. But there are a handful of enemies that will pull you back in, like this jerk. They're fairly rare, but they are much more dangerous than a normal fight.
The unfortunate part for Glenn going down is that the turn blue that he had on him fell off. Strength and Eagle Eye, Genius, they'll persist through death, but turn elements do not.
And throwing the revive also knocks another blue off the field because it's replaced by that white. So you.
Yeah.
Oof,
Yeah,
it's
luckily
very
his Surge is monstrous amounts of HP, because otherwise he would not have survived that fire breath attack. So that's the danger. What EzioPony's doing is using Magnify, and I think Genius before that, to boost Lena's magic power, so that when she uses Ice Blast or Aqua Beam or Aqua Ball, it's enough to take out the fire dragon. But Ezio's kind of playing with fire right now, because the turns keep going. So he's got to finish this fight very quickly, or else he's gonna struggle.
See another fire breath.
3
Oh my God!
HP. Okay, he got through. Good job, Ezio.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Thankfully, Fire Dragon doesn't have any AoE attacks, so if it would have went worse, if he got down to one character, he could have ran away at that point.
Yeah, so we see on Hobbes' screen, he was going through some puzzles. The first screen was like a little maze where you manipulate a platform so that you can get to the tablet to activate it. This one was a chest puzzle. By opening the treasure chests in a certain order, you move around the platform and then try to dodge the bat, which Hobbes did a good job dodging the bat the whole time. And so now he's up against the first boss of Fort Dragonia, the giant gloop.
Ezio.
Sorry, go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say Ezio equipped the Aqua Ball level 1. That was another challenge with that fight, is that he forgot to have a level 1 or 2 element on Lena. So
I see.
made it
Yeah.
that much tougher with Fire Dragon there.
So the giant gloop fight is kind of interesting because it is the giant gloop is a blue innate enemy, and so normally we would have a harder time trying to get the field fully blue for Frog Prince, but this guy likes casting blue elements, which actually will help us get this all set up, and it makes the fight a little bit less, not less scary necessarily, but it's just getting prepped for the end of this fight is a little bit simpler.
In fact, he's such a pal that if you get far enough in the script, he'll actually cast blue field and just give you a blue, entirely
Exactly.
blue field.
Yeah,
Lays
and,
out the red carpet.
surprisingly enough, after the Frog Prince, if you don't manage to do enough damage to him, which is possible if you have low magic on Lena, he'll actually use Cure Plus on your whole party, which is really nice of him.
What a bro.
I don't know why he does it, but it's nice, a nice gesture. Yeah, here we see the Frog Prince damage. It should be well over 500. With his magic, it might be 600 or more. Probably 600 or more.
So, Frog Prince, he looks kind of goofy, but Chonker, it really, really hits hard. We will use so actually some older versions of this run. The any percent version of the run now has a sets up for what's called the Master Mune route, which is where we get Serge's best weapon about 4.5-5 hours into the game, and then that's what we'll use to get through the remainder of the game. But for a long time, we basically used Frog Prince as one of like our main damage dealing systems for a huge chunk of the latter part of the run.
On Hobbes' screen, you got a +2 to strength for Glenn. He's at 22. Glenn is going to be useful for the final 2 fights in Fort Dragonia based on his strength. For now, he's just assisting with chip damage and element setup. Ezio's screen, we saw him take out Marcy and Zoa. He used a Magnify, which I've not seen that before, I don't think. But it's interesting because Lena is going to eventually use Ice Blast attack. And I think his Lena is at least at 15 magic, so this should do a hefty amount of damage against Karsh. 210 usually does like less than 200.
Good.
Almost. This Dragon Rider, though, is kind of scary with that Magnify.
Is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it?
Uh-oh. Hobbes, what are you doing?
Thinking about skipping the Cybot.
Gosh.
Likes it. He's going for it.
And he got it. Well done,
Oh
Hobbes.
boy.
Yeah, so there's a trick in the game called Cybot Skip, where you go into that corner and line up with a certain pixel, and you wait for the Cybot to walk by you. It saves about 8 to 10 seconds of time, but if you're off by 1 pixel, the Cybot will get an encounter with you, and you cannot run. Oh, well. Speaking of running away,
Oh, you
Hobbes
got trolled by the last one.
Luckily, he can run from this and just run straight through the paper boys, but the challenge for this major point, this maze-like section, is to dodge these paper boys, because they are really tough.
Well, it's unlucky because the one that he ran into doesn't have to come up to where you're trying to go. He can stay in that bottom area, and he basically, it went invisible and then moved up into his path of movement and then came back at like kind of reintegrated itself right where he was standing. And I'm guessing he probably tried to sneak by thinking he could get in front of it, and it just was too quick.
Yeah, these paper boys are some of the more challenging enemies in the game to dodge, so no shame to run into them, even an unfortunate jerk like that one Hobbes had to deal with. So we see Ezio is just entering Fort Dragonia as Hobbes is still maintaining his lead. He had defeated 1 boss already. He's making his way to the second, Taurosoid. Speaking of trolls, this guy can be a problem.
Oh yeah. He's you'll hear it a lot. He's a big jerk. Most of the enemies in this section of the game are big jerks.
Yeah, so in this fight, Taurosoid is green element innate, and he has some pretty strong attacks, but he's going to hit twice. That's the way the fight's gonna go. And you hope the first hit is on Glenn or Serge, and you hope Serge has a lot of HP. So, yeah, 148. You kind of want 150 to be safe, but Hobbes should be safe. But if Torosoid hits Lena, there's a good chance she's gonna get hit again. And if that happens, you have to revive her. Because remember, the whole point of all these fights was we're trying to set up a full blue field to use Frog Prince. We can't do that if Lena is knocked out, so it's a bit unfortunate when he chooses to hit her, but...
Yeah, and then if he chooses to hit her, so you basically, he hits her, you revive, and then you actually have to kind of defend it with everyone and let him go again. And if you use that strat and he does that and attacks Lena a third time, you have to run. And it's just a huge time loss. That we have some alternative approaches. Everyone kind of has their own preferred strats for this, like that are usually fairly close to the same but slightly different. But at its core, a lot of these fights, if the game wants to be mean enough, you will get in a situation where you need to run to reset the fight and get everything set up again properly.
It looks like Torosoid's using these immaculate physical attacks, but they're actually magic based, and that's why we hold off on using Magnify until we're ready to go for the Frog Prince.
And thanks to Lena's really strong magic, Hobbes was able to skip Genius and he used Turn Blue, I think. Normally you have Serge, Serge use like a Aqua Beam or Aqua Ball to assist with chip damage. But yeah, 1100 damage on Torosoid,
Wow.
that's
so much. I think what is he? He has like 1260 health in total or something like that.
Yep,
Yeah.
1260.
Yeah, so that's almost his entire health pool.
Yeah, normally Lena will do like 900 damage to him, and that's with a pretty good Lena.
I was like, wait, Andy, did you ever do the Frog Prince strats? Did you do runs back in that era?
Frog Prince on...
Like the non-Master Immune route?
Oh, nope.
Okay.
I've done it for fun, but...
Okay. How is it? I've watched a couple runs, but never done it.
It can be a little bit frustrating. Fire Dragon comes to mind, actually. But yeah, in non-Master Moon route, you're using Frog Prince in game a lot more.
Yeah.
I saw EzioPony do some good movement tech there. He got ahead of the bat, which normally you wait a little bit to let the bat get ahead of you, and you end up wasting like 5 or 6 seconds. But he just charged in and was not punished, surprisingly enough. Anyway,
yeah, that is a possible. It's one of those things where you have to read the bat as it's coming up towards you. It's pretty much always in the same spot, but there is like a pattern where you can tell. I know that like Carbon and I actually think Hobbes for a while were working on a way to make that consistent, as well as maybe a couple other people. I always got too scared to try it, but the funny thing is that actually basically matches up with Hobbes' Cybot skip, so they pretty much equally saved time in something that's fairly uncommon, just in different things that each one did.
Yeah, we see Hobbes. He's going to go up and activate the red pillar. And then coming up, everybody, just like to point this out, we're going to fight an enemy called Son of a Gun. It's a reference to Chrono Trigger's Son of Sun, but not the same enemy, but equally as annoying. Well, I think Son of Sun's a little more annoying. But anyway, Son of a Gun is a very kind of creepy looking boss. So if anybody is like sensitive to nightmare fuel, clowns, really creepy looking faces, on Hobbes' screen when he goes into that cylindrical door, it'd probably be best to look away. We'll explain the fight, how it goes later, but fair warning, just thought I'd point it out there.
This is kind of the night. Hobbes is going into the nightmare fuel section of the run. There's like the next couple fights are sort of like, oh goodness.
Yeah, Son of a Gun is a tricky one to learn. He always starts off in happy mode, and then will switch his mode. But if you're fortunate enough to get a good start with getting in your hits, your element, building up your elements before Son of a Gun goes, you don't have to worry about some of the nasty spells that he can cast.
All right, here we go.
So for the quick kill, you want to get Serge up to level 2 and then Lena ideally up to level 5 before he goes.
JP?
Very
both
nice.
with a crit. Why not?
Yes, so getting that good start will save Hobbes 30 seconds on average. If you don't get the good start, you get to see Son of a Gun use Kissy Wissy and Mode Change, which are both kind of slow. So very fortunate for Hobbes there.
And you're seeing him use turn blue on the enemy, and you might be thinking, well, why is he doing that? Isn't he a blue enemy? And the answer is yes, but turn elements have an interesting side effect, which is that if you use the same turn element twice on the same either enemy or character, it actually removes it in the second instance. So because he used a turn element on Son of a Gun and then another turn element on him a second time, he's no longer blue, and turn elements are really, really fast. So it's a good way to get the fight to go quickly.
Yeah, on Ezio's screen, he hit a bat, unfortunately, on the way to his treasure chest. But Son of a Gun has, I think, 383 HP total, but he has really good defenses and, magic defenses. We just saw Lena, because she's so powerful, do well over 400 damage to him, so complete overkill for that fight. But good fight for Hobbes.
Yeah, Hobbes is on a really good pace right now.
20 magic Lena. He might get the one shot on Bunyip. We'll see. But I didn't see what his Surge is at, so maybe not. It depends on Surge's magic too.
And he could move. So this is one of the things that when we talk about, like, every runner has like their own approaches and strats. One of the things that some runners do but others don't is you can actually change the element level for the Frog Prince from element level 5 to element level 6. As Andy talked about earlier, that changes its minus level from -2 to -1 and actually allows it to do more damage. When you have a really high magic Lena, that can actually make the difference in terms of allowing it to, you can kill Bunyip without having to do some extra stuff with Surge afterwards. But we'll see if Hobbes may choose not to do that, but I know he has done it in the past.
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about is that there are damage ranges for elements and melee attacks, but for Frog Prince, it's kind of important to know that, because sometimes you can get a low roll with the Frog Prince damage. Oop, Hobbes hit the stairwell guard. That guard's not easy to dodge. Every runner has their own way of dealing with it, but that's fine. Just 20 seconds down. But anyway, so get the potential to one-shot Bunyip with the Frog Prince coming up, which would save I think 30 seconds or more of time. That's also dependent on the damage ranges, but there's no real way to control the damage ranges. You just gotta get lucky.
I think so. I just pulled it up real quick just to check. Hobbes is almost is more than 90 seconds ahead of his PB right now.
Very nice.
Yeah, his PB doesn't have a great opening stretch. I know he's done this faster, but he's on a really good pace.
Yeah, he got guard skip and first key, both very key ingredients to getting a good time.
That's good, Lena. Good enough, Glenn.
Bunyip starts off as a red innate. He has 420 health. In the background, his second phase is rolling AP. So going to be building up the field to enter the second phase. Using Genius to carry the raise Lena's magic stat, which will carry over into the second phase.
Yeah, no, I think you. I don't think he bought the Diminish, did he? I think he only bought the Magnify.
I missed that part, unfortunately.
But anyway, so to Andy's point, so here's phase 2. This is the other, like I was saying, here's a little more nightmare fuel, because why this enemy this way? I don't know. Nobody knows.
So the second phase, he has 1,260 health or something like that, and making sure that he didn't go.
Good AP. Wow,
Really good AP start. Wow.
Dang.
So Bunyip, his first action on phase 2 is to do a melee attack at you, but if he gets an early start, he's almost certain to get Graviton off, which is a black element. And so it becomes a race against the clock to build up our full blue field before he can use that Graviton. So if we have a bunch of misses on characters and a bad AP start, it's likely we're not going to be able to use Frog Prince, but Hobbes got a fantastic AP start.
Getting Frog Prince off before Bunyip goes in on its first turn is extremely uncommon.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
All right, that's super rare. That's really good.
9:30. Wow.
Bush Basher?
Going for it. He's going for the quick kill. Ooh.
Dang.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Serge's magic, actually, Corp, I think you talked about it. Surge's magic there can matter a lot.
Dang.
And unfortunately, with the stamina,
Yeah, we needed so Serge either uses his 5th level element, Luminaire, which usually does about 230 to over 300 damage to Bunyip, depending on his magic. But there's a backup to equip an Aqua Ball to the level 4 slot. If Hobbes had done that, I think he would have gotten the kill there, because that normally does like 160 damage plus. But
I think
it's
you're
fun.
right, because the field would have been fully blue when he threw it.
Yeah. Still a really good fight, and that's like a highlight of the tournament right there. That AP start was ridiculous. I've never seen that before.
and Glenn actually hit 24 strength, so that allows him to potentially do a faster strat on General Viper. He needs a really good starting EP to pull it off, but the way his luck is going on this run, he may get it.
Yeah.
So Ezio's encountering Taurusoid. Hobbes did some nice dodges around the guards and the bat, so he's on his way. Okay. So Ezio got a good start, is able to use turn red without getting interrupted, but he still has to face off, or face the risk that Taurusoid is going to hit Lena, because as long as it doesn't hit Lena on turn 1, everybody should be good. Yeah, so he's good.
He's fine.
And hey, look, it's a familiar image. It's like we've seen this 3 or 4 times before. I wonder what it can mean.
I don't recall ever running into this at all.
Yeah, Hobbes mentioning he wanted to get the kill before Bunyip went. I think he rolled low, 920. He could have done over 1,000 damage with that's magic Lena, so I think he got a bit of a low roll, but oh well. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time you get maybe next time he gets a 14 roll or something, whatever that was.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hobbes is about to finish the last fights of the game. He's still been in the lead for all this time. This fight, we're going to buff up Glenn, so we're switching over from using Frog Prince strats with Lena to now back to melee strats with Glenn. Hobbes is going to hope that General Viper doesn't interrupt Serge and Lena, because they're going to hit one, Eagle Eye, and strengthen Glenn. And if that does happen, there's a chance that he's going to skip one of General Viper's attacks, which is called G-Force, but it's a small little skip that saves like 10-15 seconds.
And
like
as
might
weird as
hit
it's...
it.
Right, go ahead.
Nice, he got it. Okay.
As weird as it sounds, actually correctly doing the Eagle Eye and the Strengthen on Glenn is weirdly tricky, because you start to get used to, we didn't talk about it a whole lot, but the formations of the characters here kind of matter, because you can set up the character in the middle, and that's where your buffs will automatically kind of lock on at the start of a fight. But you have to move it when you do it for Glenn. And it looks like...
Yep.
Nice fight. Wow.
Great
Dude.
fight for Hobbes. So on Ezio's screen, we saw Lena. Her magic is only 15. So he's going to have a bit of a struggle against Son of a Gun, because you hope to have at least 16 magic for that fight, just to secure a damage range with the Frog Prince. But Now it's going to be a little bit, potentially more of a struggle for EzioPony.
Yeah, so as Peekaboo mentioning, it's a really good thing we didn't bring Kid here on Hobbs' side. But yeah, on Ezio's side, actually, that just goes to show you. So you said Lena's at 15, right, Corp?
Yep.
You said? And what did we get her at?
Like for Hobbs, it was 20.
No, sorry, for Ezio, what did we pick her up at? It was
14.
Oh, 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got Lena at 14, and she's gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 level ups. Has gotten 1 magic in that whole time.
Yep.
That is that just goes to show you this game, and her level up likelihood is a little bit less than 50-50, but that's basically like you flip a coin 8 times and you win once or twice. It's pretty unfortunate.
Yeah, the nice thing is that on average, it doesn't matter as long as she hits the 15 level, which she has. For Hobbs' screen, it's kind of just like a bonus, potential time saves here and there. But speaking of, so on Hobbs' screen, he's setting up Glenn. Strengthen Eagle Eye and turn white for Glenn. It says Glenn is very powerful against Lynx. And once Lena turns Glenn white, then it's just Glenn versus Serge, or Glenn and Serge versus Lynx. They're just going to use melee attacks and finish him off.
Yeah, and this is looking like a really, really, really good time for Hobbs here, which, just to talk a little bit about the tournament overall, does kind of matter, because I think, and Andy or maybe Dine in the chat if they want to clarify, but I believe that if, for example, there was a same record, that could actually make a difference in terms of like looking at your overall times against the person you're tied with. So it'll be really interesting to see where he ends up. But this is very, very fast. This is going to be one of the fastest ones that we have in the tournament so far.
Oh, gonna do the X strike here. Might be he's just gonna miss sub 211, at least on this timer screen, but still a fantastic time for Hobbs. GG's.
There we go. GG to Hobbs. That is a great run.
GG. I think his strength and wore off there with that 130 X strike, but thankfully it was enough.
Yeah. So we end time right as we close the heal screen there. So I think on the timer here, it would have been like a 2:11:10, more or less. Oh, look, it's Kid. What a surprise.
We can't get rid of her. Speaking of things we can't get rid of, Son of a Gun is on screen. Look away, everybody. But no, Ezio he got the good start, so he shouldn't lose 30 seconds of time. What you don't, well, yeah, he is going to have to risk the damage roll that I mentioned, because Lena is not as strong. Instead of doing over 400 damage like Hobbs had done, this should do like 310. Maybe if he gets a high roll, like 320. But very likely he's going to have to do a run-up with Glenn. And surprisingly, by hitting like those 1 attacks, it does like 7 damage each. And for a boss that only has 383 HP, that 7 or 10 damage really does make a difference.
Let's see, does he get it?
Ooh, 330. That was a good roll. Right. No, go for it.
Short. He should. Yeah, you're right. I think if he poked, he might have finished it.
At least this way, he'll guarantee it. He just has to sit through the kissy-wissy animation and mode change, which is what you hope to skip.
If that put, yeah, if Glenn's put asleep, it's sad because of his stamina.
Yeah.
See,
Don't do it.
no. He opted to do a 2 there, but really you're better off doing the 1-1 because of his defense. The 2 did 6 damage, where a 1-1 probably would have been like 5-5.
So we learned that the Glenn running up would not have been enough. He did over 20 damage with that Aqua Ball and it didn't finish him off. So good call for EzioPony. But yeah, as Andy mentioned, doing 1s is actually more beneficial than doing a 2 or a 3 because the damage doesn't really scale at that point. A 3-3 does as much damage as 2 1s at this point. But anyway, Ezio got through the fight with very little difficulty. See, hopefully Lena gets 1 more magic up. Nope.
Wow. That is bad luck. So meanwhile, just for over here on Hobbes' screen, you can see that now we are we are Lynx. So you have to this fight, get beaten up. Funnily enough, you can, if you do like a new game plus, or if you have like a very specific loadout, you actually can win this fight. And the game does have like a custom outcome in the cutscene if you do like this conversation. It's really funny. Kid basically kind of like walks up to Lynx and sort of falls onto him, but in the process, I guess, stabs him, and that gets you into the same situation.
Fun fact, in that fight, as Lynx, you can use his level 3 element, which is normally glide hook, but in that fight alone, it's a dash and slash, but with black element attached to it. So you get a bit of a different animation, so it's kind of interesting to point out, but no bearing on the run or anything like that. Ooh, missed it.
Almost.
That was a trolley pattern. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the worst you can get with that Dragoon.
For one, I'm totally shocked that Kid got stabbed. We could not have seen it coming.
Yep. It's a complete mystery. Like, who knew?
Oh man. So the hitbox made it so he was pincered in there.
Oh man.
That's rare.
Yeah, this stairwell guard, it still is a problem to deal with, but it's one of the hurdles of the game where you can learn to manipulate them, especially if you get good positioning, because sometimes you just get bad positioning, which EzioPony did. But as Andy mentioned, sometimes your positioning is such that you are pinned against a wall or close to it, and you have to like run out and around, and sometimes you don't have enough time to do that.
Yeah, Bunyip is one of the fights that can just wipe your entire party with an AoE attack. So you have to be wary of where those are. So in his first phase, his second attack, he'll use Inferno or Volcano. I always forget which one.
I think it's Inferno. I think you're right.
Yeah, Pika Blue asked a lore question. Who are these Dragoons and do they live here? They are the Viper Manor Dragoons. So Viper Manor, or General Viper and crew decide to take them along to Fort Dragonia because Lynx kind of asked for it. So they're a like obstacle to go through the dungeon. But as a result, Viper Manor is emptied out and Riddell is there, and she's gonna eventually get kind of surprised by the Poire military. But you find that out in any percent.
And one of the things that actually, it took me a while when I was playing this casually, but it's actually a really smart thing that the game does late in the game. You get the dragon tier, right, which is the kind of the shiny blue thing that Serge keeps looking into, kind of that's what actually gets used to make him change bodies here. That also is the key that unlocks Fort. So how did all these Dragoons get up here before us with all these bosses? They actually didn't have to fight any of them. They get to skip all of that because they had the Dragons tier. And so they get to go and kind of patrol the whole thing. We have to, fight whatever this is. And that's actually, so it actually does fit in the lore of the game.
Yeah, so that explains why the soldiers are there, but why these monsters are here? Like Bunyip? I don't know. It's a mystery in and of itself, but... So Ezio had a pretty good AP start. Not as good as Hobbes there, but still good enough to skip the Graviton. But unfortunately, because his Lina is very low magic, there's a chance that Serge is not going to knock out Bunyip with the Luminaire. But his Serge was, last time we checked, very good with magic, so he might be able to do it. But he should.
His Serge actually might have higher magic than his Lina.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that's actually a very likely possibility. But Serge has to get to level 5, so to do that, he's going to have Glenn hit 1-1 here. So he's probably going to, unless he gets a high roll, he's going to get interrupted with Graviton. Yep.
Oh, somebody might have gotten away with it.
Yeah, not much he could do about that. He had earlier his Surge did a 1-2-2, and one of the 2s missed. If that 2 hadn't missed, he would have been in good shape.
All right, so and I think you talked about this on one of your recent runs, Corp. But so like the damage range for this after the graviton, if you do over 300 with a black on the
His
field.
Surge is a beast.
Holy cow! I would say 270 there is like pretty solid when there's a black on the field. So that's really good. Let's see. Well, over on Hobbes' side, you can see probably my favorite stretch of the game, which is this kind of like weird impressionist world. Oh my gosh, his Surge has 19 magic, dude.
Oh man.
It's so high.
Wow.
26 strength too.
Yeah, for any percent, we're looking to leave Fort Dragonia with like 25 or more strength on Surge. So like Hobbes left Fort Dragonia with 24, which is kind of mediocre for any percent attempts. But for this category, Surge doesn't matter as much. But that 19 magic on Surge is surprising. Like, you'd never see that high, almost never.
Yeah, like 6 hours in the game, he's a few points above that.
Yeah. Normally, like, there's one fight later in any percent where magic does come into play, and by that point, you hope that he's like 20 or more, but usually he is. He's floating around that area, but 19 already is just, that's insane.
Yeah, we would need him to get, like, we would say if he gets like 5 magic ups in the next, like, what is it, 25, 30 star levels, we're in good shape, something like that.
Yep. All right, Ezio's made it to the door, so he's looking at a sub 230 Lynx 2 time, but it depends on what kind of luck he gets with the 2 fights. General Viper is usually pretty nice compared to Lynx. Lynx can be quite the troll, but one of the important things that we haven't really talked about is that after a fight, you have the chance to heal up with the elements you have equipped, like Cure Plus or Heal All. Or you have a chance to heal up with consumables. So we buy tablets earlier and have those in reserve, and then we use those tablets when we have to heal with consumables. So one of the big dangers of this section is to accidentally skip over healing after the General Viper fight, because if that happens, you're pretty likely to lose the Lynx fight and have to run away and try again, which is a big time loss.
Doesn't have the strength to be able to do the slightly faster strat, but it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, without the proper strength on Glenn, you'd normally have to see G-Force at the very least, even if you get a good start. Here. Yeah, he could technically do a 1, then a 3-3 if you wanted to try to go for the G-Force skip, but that's even riskier than just going for the 3-3. Yeah, we buff up Glenn. We have Lena do a Bush Basher, which her magic, this is like the last point of the game where her magic has any sort of impact. And because his Lena is kind of weak, it's not going to be as much damage as normal. So Glenn's going to do the 3-3, the defend, and then the Sonic Sword when he gets a chance. Alright, but good fight from EzioPony. That's a typical General Viper fight.
General Viper has the all-important common drop that you hope for, the Dragon Gauntlet.
He got it. Both runners got it this time.
Must mean Super Handy is asleep.
Yeah.
We joke. So Super Handy is another one of the runners who's been involved in the community for a long time, and for whatever reason, we like to joke that he always gets that drop and that he can like curse people with the bad drop, which is the mithril nail, which does not give you +3 strength. Yeah, O'Malley in the chat mentioned. Yes, that's true. Actually, Super Handy did get a PB last night / this morning. Congratulations to him. And Ezio's Serge is very, very strong. At 27 already, which, if he chooses to keep it going, is a very, very good platform for the rest of the game.
Yeah, but Glenn's still supporting all the support accessories, so be buffing him up. Actually, I would imagine that even without the accessories, Serge might be at a point where it'd be beneficial to use Strengthen on him, but we'll see as Glenn.
Yeah, we saw Glenn do a run up and do a 2. Unfortunately, it missed, but that is a viable strat to get a little bit of extra damage in when your Glenn is not that strong. But it didn't pan out, unfortunately, for EzioPony. But stick to the script and do a 3-3. Getting a crit in this fight can potentially save an entire round of combat, and if Glenn is a monster, if he's like 27 or more strength, getting a crit can save 2 rounds of combat, potentially. But normally, it's just Serge and Glenn will tag team Lynx, and then finish it off with an X-Strike. Oh, there's that crit. You might not need the X-Strike ending, thanks to that crit.
The spell that Lynx just casts, it's actually one of the elements that Serge has equipped. It's always one that one of Serge's, and it actually consumes it where Serge can't use it. Doesn't have an impact on the fight. It's interesting to note.
Yep, so Serge had a miss earlier, and if he hadn't have missed, that 3-3 from Glenn would have finished off Lynx. Anyway, GG's for EzioPony, sorry.
GG's
A sub
to both
226.
runners. Very nicely done. Really, really good job. Great time. It was very close. Looks like Ezio is done. But we saw like really, really good play. A lot of really, really tough situations that they handled really well. So congratulations to both.
Absolutely. Well done, both runners. And I would throw it out there for anyone interested into learning the speed run. You're more than welcome to join the Discord that the Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger communities share.
All right, and I think we might actually. So there was a little bit of discussion recently. We'd like to maybe invite Hobbes and Ezio into the conversation here to talk a little bit about their runs. Is he out there?
I think Hobbes is ready.
Yeah, I'm here now.
Hey Hobbes, GG's.
Hey,
Hey,
thank you.
So how upset were you when you didn't make it for Bunyip?
I wasn't exactly upset because I was prepping that in my mind because I mistakenly forgot to check Serge's magic, but with that high AP, I probably would have regretted it more to not go for it, I think.
Yeah, that was the first time we've seen AP roll like that.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that before, so that was pretty cool. And I to be honest, I was fine with the time lost there. To be honest.
Yeah, you still end up with a very good Lynx 2 time.
Well, thank you.
How did you feel after your adventures with the door?
Okay, so yeah, so
Oh man.
so Kid was a little low, and when I saw, I think she was like 10 HP or so under her max, and as I was going up the elevator, I just had flashbacks of like characters surviving to like 1 or 2 HP. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this. And then it kind of just messed up my timing getting to the door, and the rest is history.
Yeah. I think
Yeah, so
we have Ezio here now too.
hey, GG's
Yes.
Ezio.
Hello.
Yeah, GG's
Thanks.
Ezio. It was an awesome race, man.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so believe it or not, both of you had almost an identical start. You both got the double beach bum fight, got the double humor drop, you got the feather drop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so how'd you both feel? Start with Ezio. How'd you feel about the start of the run going into like that to the end of Lynx 1?
Well, it seemed to be on the good side, but when there was a lot of misses in one of the fights early on, but when it came to the Marcy fight, like there was no misses at all. So I feel like the RNG was being kind of picky today. I don't know. It's like it was. I was constantly on my toes, so to say.
Mally mentioning in chat, you had a extremely strong Serge as EzioPony going into the early game. But you did have to fight 4 guard fight, or the guard fights, but there are 4 guards in the fight.
Nice.
Hobbes actually managed to get the guard skip at the start and only a 3 guard fight, so that got him quite a bit of a lead at the start. But
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, that's. I haven't still practiced that enough to be comfortable with it, so I just didn't really try that today.
Yeah, I recommend for new runners not to go for it. So
I do as well.
Fine.
Even experienced runners, like the current world record, which is Connor Cordell's 636, doesn't guard skip, and he doesn't even try. It's not required for a tremendously fast time. So absolutely not.
Yeah,
needed.
I mean, I wasn't planning on it. It's just typically I set a pretty much a roll if I'm 13 strength or lower. I typically will at least give it a shot.
Interesting.
But honestly, with kids' strength, I probably didn't need to. But
That was one interesting thing in watching the two of you was that you had a really high strength kid and a lower strength Serge, and really the two balanced out between your two runs as far as like damage output.
Oh, nice. How did the keys go? I know I got first.
You guys both got first.
Oh my god, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's nice when that happens because obviously it's such a component of RNG that can really, really swing a race. Not that you know anything about that, Hobbes. This is all up.
Yeah,
So
and
what about
the fire? Oh, go ahead,
Oh.
Hobbes.
I was just gonna say, so what about Lena Magic? Like, how did we both fare there in comparison?
Well, you both had 14 when you got her, but unfortunately for Ezio, he ended up with 15 at the end.
Yeah, I didn't really
Oh no.
climb. And
That
I
was very unlucky.
I forgot to equip the aqua ball for the fire dragon fight. So there I dropped my PP pace.
Yeah, but you did a good job dealing with that fire dragon fight because that's never an easy situation, especially when things don't go your way. So well done.
Yeah, that fire dragon fight was crazy.
Yeah,
As
it
well.
got kind of intense.
Yeah, you guys both really honestly this was a really, really fun race to watch. You guys both had like a lot of really interesting situations, handled them really well.
Yeah, when your ghost stance didn't go to plan, I was surprised you still went for it, Ezio, and you got it. You didn't get into the fight again.
Yeah,
I was able to recover.
I was a bit salty about it because I had to practice it so much. Like I was pretty confident that I could get it working, but it was just the odd millimeter too slow.
Well, definitely this game is it's fractions of a percent and millimeters of distance. Definitely the difference at times.
All right, but with that, does anybody have any closing statements? Any last minute, fun facts or whatever about your impressions on the race.
I would just say GG again to both runners, and once again, this is a tournament to for the sake of tournament, but it's also building up to the Chrono Trilogy Relay that will be happening later on this year, looking in September, October. So look forward to that.
Same. I would say what Andy said. GG's to the runners. Thank you so much to everyone watching. We really appreciate it. This has been the first time that we've done a tournament like this for the Chrono Cross community, and it's super fun. And we're really excited to share it with folks.
Yeah, and look forward to the next races that'll be going on the next few weeks, and tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time, the next match.
And thanks to our restreamer Dine, which when you're ready, you can take it away.
Yeah, as Andy was saying, there will be a Chrono trilogy. We'll be doing Chrono Trigger into Radical Dreamers into Chrono Cross. We're looking at the beginning of October. It's still a little too early to really define a date, but we're looking for somewhere around there. As always, I'd like to thank RPG Limit Break for allowing us to broadcast on their platform. They've been super fun to work with. Thank you to all the runners and commentary to put their time up for putting on this event. It's great to see the love for Chrono Cross. We will be back, as Corp was saying, tomorrow for our very own PH with a bunch of numbers versus ROM at 4 p.m. And then we'll take it from there. Very close race at the start. A lot of runners have been... This also helped a few runners get motivated for better PBs and things like that. I know Dietz was talking about it. So it's very nice to see that everyone's being able to take something positive out of an event like this. So without further ado, we're going to throw everything to Bomb. He's doing a Chrono Cross playthrough. Once again, thank you everyone for taking your time out of the day, for viewers, commentators, runners. We'll see all your faces tomorrow. Everyone have a good night, be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.